You are closing out a massive cycle of your growth, of your discovery, of your karma that began in April 2023, with this Aries solar eclipse landing 2 years later. Hi all, my name is Haley Comet and welcome to my Cosmic Corner of the internet, where we discuss all things astrology, and today all things Aries solar eclipse March 29th, 2025 and you. What new beginning is unfolding within your life? What new chapter you are writing? What new adventure the universe is pushing you towards? Ready or not, here you come. Because that's the nature of the sign that this solar eclipse lands in Aries. This is a sign that speaks of courage, that speaks of initiative, that speaks of the bravery to be fully authentic with who it is that you are and what it is that you desire. A solar eclipse indicates that this is an eclipse on the new moon, which signals new beginnings, blank slates, fresh starts. And it's on the North Node, which signals gain and growth. We are being thrust forward towards our new chapter. And yet, there is something bittersweet around this solar eclipse. It is a bit like a beginning and an ending all wrapped up into one. Because while this is an eclipse that speaks to newness and novelty, it is the final eclipse that we will experience within the Aries Libra axis that we have been navigating for the past 2 years. This journey began back in April 2023 with a solar eclipse in Aries. And here we are 2 years later with a solar eclipse in Aries, yet so much is different. And there is an ask during the solar eclipse to really commemorate, appreciate, and celebrate how far you have came since April 2023 when this journey began. And this journey for you, this work for you, this growth for you could have been concentrated in these Aries Libra themes. You could have been asked to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, independent, more so than you may have wanted to be, more so than you should have had to be. You may have been guided to advocate for yourself, fight for yourself, stick up for what it is that you believe in. You could have been asked to shed codependency, people-pleasing behavior, living your life for others. That speaks to the overall archetypal Aries Libra themes. It also kicks up a story within your natal chart, a more specific story within your natal chart, and we'll get into that within our all signs breakdown, where within your chart you have Aries and Libra. Thus, where within your life a lot of this growth was concentrated for the past 2 years. And there's still work to be done. Like with the solar eclipse, there's still a mountaintop that we have our eye on, right? There's still something else that we're being asked to climb towards, ascend towards. This Aries solar eclipse is launching us towards it. But there is a sensation with the solar eclipse in Aries around looking down the mountaintop, seeing how far up you've already hiked, and remembering that you're the one who got you here. You're the one who navigated through those challenges that have been alive within your world these past 2 years. You're the one who kept going even when it felt impossible. You're the one who kept fighting for your own potential, for the life that you deserve, for the life that you want to live. You're the one who got yourself up the mountaintop. Don't forget that. And yes, there's more to climb, there's more work to be done, there's more growth to unfold. But this Aries solar eclipse reminds you of all the dragons that you've slayed up to this point, all of the elevation that you've ascended at this point in time. You did that. And maybe not all of us were slaying dragons or climbing up mountains, but you did overcome some hurdles and some obstacles and some challenges for the past 2 years. And the solar eclipse in Aries wants you to remember that you did that. Like Aries is the sign of identity and self. We come into this planet alone and we do pass away alone within our own vessel. And you've got to fight for you. You've got to do it for you because nobody will do it for you. No one can do it for you. And this solar eclipse is fascinating, much like the opening eclipse back in April 2023, because the nodes are no longer in Aries and Libra. Like in terms of where the nodes are situated, they have already walked into Pisces and Virgo. When this eclipse cycle started, the nodes were still in Scorpio and Taurus. So we are 1 foot in the old story and 1 foot in the new story. But with this solar eclipse conjoining the North Node and Pisces, it kind of bridges the gaps of what it is that we've been asked to chisel and what it is that we are currently learning. And when we think about North Node and Pisces, it's a very spiritual, transcendent sign. Aries represents the beginning of the life cycle. Pisces represents the end of the life cycle and whatever comes after, right? Spirit, source, what have you. And with these energies being blended with the solar eclipse, it almost feels like this acknowledgement around, okay, God, spirit, universe, source energy can give me all of these talents and can give me all of these passions, but no one can do it for me. No one can chisel these talents and passions for me. No one can keep going for me. My spirit guides can't do it for me. God can't do it for me. I have to do it for me. You could be given the most amazing talent of being able to crochet, but my love, until you have the courage to take a crochet class or get the crochet materials, that God-given talent within you will wither. You have to fight for your destiny. You have to fight for yourself, and no one can do it for you because no one was given the destiny, the purpose, the mission that you were given. Only you can feel that. Only you can tap into that. And only you can chisel that accordingly for yourself. And so with this solar eclipse, it's 2 years later since we had the first solar eclipse in Aries. What has changed? What has changed within your world? How have you stepped into more of who it is that you are, more of who it is that you were designed to be? How have you had the courage to advocate for yourself, to leave unfulfilling, imbalanced relationships, to be messy and authentic and honest with who it is that you are? And maybe your outer world is similar, maybe it's much different, maybe your inner world has completely transformed, but this solar eclipse asks you to contemplate the past 2 years. Don't get stuck there. You know, Aries is all about new beginnings. We may have Mercury and Venus retrograde occurring during the eclipses, but trust me, new beginnings are transpiring. It's around reflecting on the past, not getting stuck in it, not getting lost in it, but just to have that moment around, I did that. I kept going. I fought for myself. And now the journey is taking me elsewhere, and it may have its own Piscean threads of what it is that I'm being asked to learn next. But remember that you kept going. You kept ascending up that mountaintop. You kept fighting and slaying those dragons, whatever that may have been. So within this video, we'll be breaking down all of the nuances within the solar eclipse in Aries 2025, the collective themes, which I deeply recommend you listen to, as this will be very much threaded within your eclipse experience. I'll take it into a step-by-step tutorial around how you can find exactly where this solar eclipse lands in, as well as overall where Aries and Libra sits within your chart, because those are the life arenas that could have been really kicked up for these past 2 years. After that, I'll take you through a house-by-house forecast around your solar eclipse in Aries story based on where exactly it lands within your birth chart. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into the solar eclipse in Aries, advocating for your destiny. The Aries solar eclipse lands on March 29th, 2025 at 3:58 a.m. PDT. And this solar eclipse lands at 9 degrees Aries. I know some websites and some planners and some chart calculators are reporting as 8 degrees Aries, 59 minutes, around that sector of the sky. About late 8, early 9. We'll get into what that means within your chart. But firstly, let's break down the overall nuances of this eclipse. As I stated earlier, it is a solar eclipse. This indicates an eclipse on the new moon. This signals a new start, a new beginning. It's considered that solar eclipses are a bit more collective, and lunar eclipses, like the lunar eclipse in Virgo we had a couple weeks back, I have an all signs forecast on that to review that story. Lunar eclipses tend to be a little bit more personal, like personal culminations. Solar eclipses tend to be a bit more generational, a bit more collective. And whereas lunar eclipses are on the full moon, so it's like things revealed and things coming to light, sometimes solar eclipses are a bit more subtle, at least as it relates to our own individual lives. And that's why I love keeping journals, or even like going back in your photos to April 2023. If you're like, Haley, Comet, I don't know if anything significant was happening in April 2023. Look back, just review what was alive in your world, what themes were transpiring, what lessons were you learning, what were you being asked to advocate for. Sometimes that shows up in big ways, sometimes that shows up in small ways. So revisit your journals, look at your photos at that period in time, and really honor how far you have come. Again, another solar eclipse in Aries. Aries, yet so much has transpired since that point in time. And this solar eclipse is on the North Node. So with the solar eclipse back in April 2023, the North Node was in Aries. So it was kind of blending the journey and the lessons of North Node and Taurus with the new beginning of the Aries solar eclipse. Now the nodes are sitting at Pisces and Virgo. So now it's blending these Aries Pisces themes, which really represents how can I trust the universe, trust the process, the journey of North Node and Pisces, while also acknowledging that I have my own role in the process. Because with North Node and Pisces, overall, we are being guided to let things be as they may and to follow the breadcrumbs and to trust that things will make sense in time. Absolutely. But that does not mean giving your power away or just feeling like you are fully at the mercy of the powers that be, the cosmos that be. Like Aries solar eclipse reminds us, you're an autonomous individual. You have free will. I mean, certainly you have your natal chart, you have your karma, you have certain lessons that you will experience during your time here on planet Earth. But it's not about outsourcing your power. You have a role to play within your destiny. You have a role to play within your destiny. Yes, there are certain experiences that are destined to occur. There are certain talents and potentials that were given to you purposefully. There are certain themes within our birth chart and transit that will unfold. Certainly, there is destiny. You have a role to play within your destiny. The universe could have given you this amazing skill and talent for being a basketball player, and you might sit back and trust the universe so much so that you're like, if I'm meant to be a basketball player, the universe is just going to pluck me from where it is that I'm at and put me right into the NBA. But that's not how it works. We have a role to play within our destiny. You have a role to play in order to chisel and unlock all of that talent and potential within you. The universe can give you the talent and potential. It can connect you to the right basketball coaches. It can inspire you with the right role models within the industry, but you have to be the one to play the game. You have to be the one to dribble. You have to be the one to take the shot. And even if you do not want to be a basketball player, whatever your heartfelt desire is, whatever your dream is, because a lot of times that's where our destiny or our dharma is signaled to us, around what lights us up, what ignites us, this Aries energy, where it is that we feel transcendent, we feel in the flow state, that Pisces energy, that signals to you where your destiny lies, which may not be what other people would concoct for your journey, which is fine because it's not theirs. But that's why I'm emphasizing no one can do it for you, because nobody knows you like you do and like your spirit guides do, but they can't do it for you. Again, they can give you the signs and the synchronicities. They could put an ad in your algorithm for a basketball camp that just so happens to be in your area during a time that you're off school. It cannot make you sign up. Right? It could put all these signs and things in your pathway. It cannot make you take the action, take the risk, show up for that talent, show up for your destiny, really. And sometimes other people don't understand it because it's not their destiny. Because with South Node and Libra, it was this journey around shedding codependency, shedding people-pleasing, shedding needing to keep the peace for other people's validation, needing to keep things as pretty and as palatable as possible. Because maybe people don't understand that we want to be a basketball player. Maybe people tell us that we can't do what it is that we feel called to do. Again, it's not their calling. And not everyone needed to necessarily release a relationship during this time. Maybe some did. But it was releasing this reliance around needing the significant connections within your life to validate you or to understand your path or your journey. You don't need them to validate you. You validate you. Your spirit team validates you. God validates you. The universe validates you. It was releasing, outsourcing our value to other people, letting other people tell us if we were valuable, or hoping if we just kept the peace, if we were just nice and good enough, then we would finally get it, what it is that we desire. You know, North Node Aries was sort of this journey around sometimes you have to take the reins, you have to take control and get what it is that you desire, advocate for what it is that you desire. Just keeping the peace and being as diplomatic and as nice and as other people centric as possible does not necessarily indicate that your heartfelt desires will just fall in your lap. Like sometimes you have to advocate for it. And even disrupting the peace within our connections, you know, advocating for our desires or advocating for our boundaries or advocating for what is okay with us, what is not okay with us, what it is that we want out of life, right? Maybe we could have tried it the Libra way, just tried to keep the peace and be nice and be pleasant, but still finding like I'm still not getting what it is that I desire. I'm still feeling disrespected or something like this. And North Node and Aries could have been this wake-up call where this showed up in big or small ways around no one is going to stick up for me unless I stick up for me. And for some individuals, that could have been a heartbreaking realization for these past 2 years. You know, Aries is a sign of independence and self-reliance and self-sufficiency, which, yes, it's so powerful to see, like, I did that. I kept going. I fought for what it is that I want, and I got it. I am someone who is autonomous and has agency over my own world. Like, heck yeah. Like, that is something to celebrate and be very proud of. But there also could be something bittersweet around, I wish someone would have showed up for me, or I wish I could rely on someone, or I wish the people that I had prioritized so strongly had prioritized me. Like, I wish I didn't have to fight so hard to get what it is that I desire or what it is that I deserve. Like, I wish that being a kind human, a courteous human would have allowed me to get my needs met. And again, I do believe within relationships, your needs should be honored. Like, you should not have to fight and battle and force good treatment into your world. But again, if there was an energy alive where things would bother you, but it was more important to keep the peace and keep the peace, North Node Aries could have shaken it up around, I am dealing with a war within because I'm so uncomfortable to keep the peace out here. And it takes being very radically honest to build a life of your wildest desires. It takes being radically honest with yourself as well as being radically honest with others. Because if you're not honest with yourself around your desires, you will never free yourself in order to follow them or to build a life that surrounds them. You will live your life for other people. South Node Libra. You will do what's expected of you or what benefits other people, even while you suppress and you hide what it is that you really desire, what ignites you, what lights you up, what fuels your fire, so to speak, with this Aries solar eclipse. And it starts with honesty. It starts being honest with, this is who it is that I am. And Aries can be this very unapologetic, very messy sign around, this is who I am. Like, take it or leave it. This is what I am. This is the way that I'm choosing to live my life. And I don't particularly care if other people understand it or validate it. I don't need their validation. I validate myself. And with North Node Pisces, the universe validates me as well. And so this past 2 years was asking us to step into that journey, step into that energy of fighting for your destiny or for your talents or for your potential or for your right to live your life in a way that nobody else might. No one else might decide to spend their weekends playing basketball. No one else might decide to make certain decisions. It's not their life. You have the right to live your life. And North Node in Pisces is wanting you to understand that the more that you can unlock what lights you up, what is unique about you, what is authentically your truth, the sooner that you will align yourself to the path that the universe has custom carved for you. So for a lot of individuals with South Node Libra for the past 2 years, there could have been this acknowledgement around, I've tried to do what was expected. I tried to be good. I tried to be nice. I tried to be liked by everybody. And it just made me feel resentful and bitter because I tried to be everything for everybody else. When's it my time? When's it my turn? Now, my love. And I'm not saying that you need to be mean and selfish and cut everybody off with this Aries solar eclipse. Maybe some of you are. Maybe some of you are. You will have many fulfilling, amazing relationships and friendships within this lifetime. We are here to connect, but at the end of the day, you have to choose yourself. Because I think the nodes in Aries and Libra also kicked up the story around not being chosen. People around you not choosing you, not feeling chosen. You choose you. The universe already chose you for your destiny. It's time for you to choose you. And no one's going to do it for you. And I know with South Node Libra can be so depressing and so disappointing around, wow, I really come into this planet by myself and I really exit this planet by myself. Like, I really have got to have my own back because At the end of the day, people can switch up. Because with North Node Pisces, we are all on our own journey, my love. And we will have significant chunks of the path that we walk throughout this life with other people, hand in hand with soulmates and partners and friends and collaborators and amazing people around us. But there are some parts of the path that are just for you to walk alone. Even if there are other people within your world, they may not understand it, and they don't have to. And that's been the courage that North Node in Aries has wanted to guide you towards. And that's the courage that you're being asked to have during this Aries solar eclipse. And with this Aries solar eclipse, there is this raw zest around deciding to truly live. Deciding to truly be here, deciding to truly fight for the life that you desire, and to choose to keep going despite all of the obstacles and challenges that you have overcame. And yes, maybe a lot of these are physical. But when we look at the ruler of this eclipse being Mars in Cancer squaring Chiron in Aries, there is this element of these obstacles, these hurdles, and these challenges are not necessarily just physical or what's happening out in the world. It's the obstacles to overcome our past or the inertia of our past with Mars in Cancer. The grooves of familiarity that could lead us to repeating certain familial patterns, generational patterns beyond our will. Or even just overcoming the perils of trauma, overcoming the obstacles of inadequacy, insecurity. Chiron is a comet. It represents the wounded healer. And with the ruler of this eclipse squaring Chiron, there's this decision to launch forward, to try, to decide, to fight for the life that we desire, to choose to keep going, even despite what in your life could have wounded you or hurt you deeply. And the energy of the Aries solar eclipse asks you to keep going, to decide to be here, even with the pain. I mean, when we think of this Aries energy, yes, it's warrior energy, and that shows up in so many different dimensions. It's not just the warrior energy around conquering challenges and going after new things, but even the decision to keep going, even the decision to be courageous in battling your own healing journey, your own traumas and things such as this. It's important to widen our understanding of what makes someone strong or what makes someone a warrior, because the solar eclipse in Aries signifies someone who may be overcoming a challenge or an obstacle that's more so emotional, that's more so internal, that's more so generational. But there also could be this nudge with Aries solar eclipse to recognize your strength in the battles that you have fought that maybe not many people were privy to. And with this being the final eclipse, maybe some of you are acknowledging how far you have come around these Chironian pains, which can represent our journey of physically healing, emotionally healing, spiritually healing, psychologically healing. Maybe some of you are in that currently, but there is a nudge with this Aries solar eclipse to make that decision to try, to make that decision to be here, to make that decision to keep going, to make that decision to fight inertia of the past, to fight the trauma responses that may be encoded into you, to fight what within you makes you feel like you're not enough and that you cannot have what it is that you desire, to choose to keep going, to choose to remember that you are going to be the one who gets you everything that you desire within this life. You are going to be the hero of your journey, the warrior of your story. Remember that. This Aries solar eclipse is asking you to. And there is so much power in verbiage, and I want to echo that here because this solar eclipse aligns with Mercury, and Aries brings in a lot of these themes around identity and self. And with Mercury, it's like what we call ourselves or how it is that we define ourselves, which again, Mercury is retrograde. So this could be going through redefinition or a rediscovery or even reviewing the ways that you've defined yourself. And if that aligns for you moving forward, and certainly we can get down to semantics, right? Of like literal ways or titles that you could define yourself, but also just being mindful of boxes that you put yourself within. As an example, let's say that you have always identified yourself as an empath. and there's an opportunity that comes your way. But you think about being an empath and you're like, gosh, I just constantly take on other people's emotions and energy that feels exhausting. Even though it intrigues me, I'm an empath, so I couldn't possibly do that. It's not to say that that's not an identity that does fit you, but being very cautious of where you have identities that keep you in some sort of prison around, oh, I couldn't possibly because I'm this, because I'm this. That can keep us very safe, having certain identities around, oh, I couldn't possibly because of this. And it's not to say that you are not empathetic, but being very cautious before you define yourself, I am this. And seeing where it is that you can, with Mercury retrograde, redefine that around I am an emotional warrior, right? I am emotionally intelligent. Even just adding on identities or ways of seeing yourself that allow the voice to be more active around this is who I am. And this is a skill that I have. This is an ability that I have. It's not something that I'm passive around. I just feel everybody's energy and emotions and I can't help it. It's like, I am emotionally intelligent. I am a spiritual warrior. I am an empathetic warrior. Indicates I have this gift and ability, but I'm in control of it. It's not in control of me. And even just those small ways that we describe ourselves or name ourselves or identify ourselves can lead to major shifts. Sometimes we keep ourselves ensnared in certain identities and keep ourselves from opportunities that really could change our life because we have decided that we are someone who could not possibly step into that, embody that, be what that could be. Don't be the first person to tell yourself no. And sometimes we do that just by the way that we define ourselves. A great example of how we do this is astrology, honestly. Like being very cautious before you say, and of course we know there's so many different dimensions to a birth chart, but I remember being young and I'm a Pisces natally, and I just remember wanting to be self-employed or wanting to do my own thing, but being like, oh, but I'm too sensitive. Like I'm a Pisces, I couldn't possibly. And almost like limiting my dreams because I was like, that couldn't possibly. I identify with being a Pisces, certainly, but it's important to know that identities can be something that is expansive and helps illuminate new sides of ourselves and maybe even challenge us in certain ways, or it could be something that like ensnares us around, oh, I couldn't possibly because I'm too sensitive. It's like, have you even tried to embody that, in my case, that initiative, that courage that it would take to start your own business? And obviously at the time of those thoughts, I mean, I think I was like in middle school when I was thinking all of that. Like certainly I was not launching a business at that time, but I do just remember shooting down desires that I had because I was like, oh, I couldn't possibly. Telling myself no before the world even had an opportunity to tell me no. Don't be the first person to tell yourself no. You know, there's a reason why Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. They do what other people say that they can't. And you don't trailblaze unless you are willing to tell yourself yes, even when the world tells you no. You know, this world is cruel and harsh enough. You don't need to inject yourself as well with self-doubt. You can possibly, because you're this and you're this. Be very cautious with words. This eclipse lands at the time that we are experiencing this Mercury-Neptune conjunction. And it's fascinating because the day after this eclipse, Neptune officially settles into Aries. So at the time of the eclipse, Neptune is like really hovered at the final degree of Pisces, kind of like peering over into the Aries territory of the sky, which is a brand new cycle. There will be a video on my channel side by side going into the nuances of that because that's a big transit, and I do find it fascinating that it aligns so close in timing with this eclipse. Neptune essentially hovered at the final degree of Pisces, a story that's been ongoing within our lives since 2011. And then Mercury is hovered at 0 degrees Aries, which is a degree that speaks to pure potentiality. And I want to bring that to the surface because Neptune is a planet that deals with imagination. It also deals with illusion. So again, we can deceive ourselves by what we choose to title ourselves or what we choose to identify ourselves with. Again, if I locked myself in this box around I'm a Pisces, I could not possibly be self-employed. If that was a mentality that I truly held on to, I would likely seek and find lots of data within my external reality that supplemented that idea within my mind. Neptune energy can skew and distort. And so it's very important where it is that you could be skewing or distorting yourself or your authenticity by what you call yourself or what you conceive of yourself altogether. Neptune within astrology governs screens, mirrors, cameras, and these are all approximations of what it is that you look like. It's not really how it is that you are in true actuality in regards to how people perceive you through their eyeballs. We have a rough idea, right, via mirrors and cameras and things like this, but we don't actually know what it is that we look like. And Neptune is kind of that energy. Like if you've had certain photos taken of yourself where you're like, oof, I couldn't possibly look like that. Like, oh God. Or some photos where you're like, oh, wow. Or if you have like some mirrors around your household, like I have my hot mirror, which is in my bedroom, which just, I don't know why. I just feel like that mirror, I always look snatched in that mirror. My skin always looks clearer in that mirror. I always look taller in that mirror. I love my hot mirror. Obviously, I want to go look at that reflection because then in my hallway bathroom, I have a gargoyle mirror. In which I kind of look like a gargoyle. I don't even know. Every time I look in the mirror reflection there, I'm like, I could not possibly look like that. Like, why is a gargoyle looking at me? Like, what on earth? And again, I don't say that to be self-deprecating, and I think it is important to be conscious and conscientious with our language, with the solar eclipse aligned with Mercury. But for the sake of describing Neptune, it's important to know that regardless whichever mirror I look at, I'm still the same me. And that's where Neptune energy could be so sneaky. It can distort, it can elongate, it could obscure, it could highlight, it could embellish. And so with this occurring, like be very cautious where it is that you are deceiving yourself by self-imposed barriers of how it is that you define yourself or how it is that you see yourself. Are there certain ways that you see yourself that's like looking in the gargoyle mirror, illuminating your worst qualities and obscuring your best ones? And if you have a choice, you're going to leave the house feeling a lot more confident if you get ready in the hot mirror, right? If you choose to view yourself in light of your best characteristics and your best qualities. Like if I get ready in the hot mirror, I'm likely going to interact with the world, be more open, feel more confident, feel more excited, enthusiastic. And that is a ripple effect. If I leave the house feeling really confident with my head held high, I'm going to be more open to opportunities. People are going to be more drawn to me, and that has ripple effects within our world. If I get ready in the gargoyle mirror, I'm probably gonna have my shoulders down and be like, don't look at me, I'm hideous. I'm kidding, but just, I'm not gonna be as confident, right? My shoulders are gonna be kind of rolled in. I'm not gonna wanna make eye contact with other individuals. I'm not gonna feel my best. I'm not gonna wanna put myself out there. My trueness remains unchanged. Regardless of what was reflected to me, I look the exact same when I step out. The difference is the attitude. The difference is the confidence. Be very intentional to define yourself and see yourself in ways that is like looking in the hot mirror at yourself. I'm not saying it needs to be this grandiose thing, but really see yourself as the main character of your life. Like truly be self-centered. You are the center of your world. It's literally your life. Like what? It's your life, okay? And you get to decide and choose. I am the protagonist of my journey. I am the hero of my journey. I'm the warrior of my story. I am going to conquer these challenges. Like, be very cautious where it is that you feel disempowered over life and seek to instead empower yourself. Again, eclipses, I'm not saying that we can control everything. This is a time of fate. This is a time of destiny. It's not a time to force things to come into alignment. But rather than viewing things like things are happening to me, see where it is that you can view things around things are happening for me. Because even if we view ourselves around, I'm cursed, I have this aspect of my birth chart that signifies that I will never succeed in life. Or again, if that's what you focus upon, you're going to feel very disempowered over your world. You're just going to feel like this life, this universe are things that are happening to me. And this is just the lot that I've been given in life. I guess I'm just cursed. I guess my chart is just malefic. And of course, I'm sitting here as an astrologer. I deeply believe in the art of interpretation that is astrology. There's so much validity to it, but it's deeply important what parts of your chart that you tune into and just overall how you identify yourself. Even if you engage with numerology or human design or things such as this, like we engage with these systems to understand ourselves, to unlock ourselves. Like be very conscious where it is that you can engage with these systems and unintentionally ensnare yourself. I'll work with so many clients and I'll bring up the most amazing configurations within their birth chart around, oh my goodness, you have this grand trine, or oh my goodness, you have this kite, or oh my goodness, Venus is rejoicing in the 5th house. And they'll tell me, but yeah, there's this horrible Pluto square. And again, I'm not invalidating that. Like, that comes to the surface within our world. But be very conscious where it is that you are advocating for your own like misery or suffering, and see where it is that you can see those Pluto squares within your birth chart, that 12th house moon, whatever aspect of your chart that is more challenging. See where it is that you can see yourself as a warrior despite it all, right? Who chooses to keep going, who chooses to keep fighting and keep showing up. Like I said, Neptune is a smokescreen. I know for me, I used to think I had the worst chart. I was like, I came to this planet to suffer. I know, really dramatic, but that's truly how I felt. Like every time I looked at my birth chart, I would just feel so defeated. Thinking about my Pluto squares, my 6th house stellium, my 12th house moon, I would look at all of that and be like, well, I guess I came here to suffer. And I had to be very intentional to be like, no, I came here to thrive. And that's why I want to convey this here, because one thing that you cannot change is the date and time that you came into this planet. And it breaks my heart when I meet with clients who are in the mindset that I was in. Like, I totally relate. I'm not saying that you will not feel those dynamics, but it's very important to be intentional around, I came here to thrive. I came here to survive. I came here to flourish. Because I will say, once I had certain experiences within my world, and I'm telling you, I am looking at the same chart, but my relationship to it has utterly transformed. Now I'm looking at how blessed I am that I have Sun and Venus trining Jupiter. Like, I'm looking at how blessed I am that I've got an exalted Venus. Again, the static picture is the same, but in this Neptunian way, my reflection of it is different, and it can distort. Like, I was not in a space where I was able to tune into anything positive within my birth chart at that point in time, right? I was kind of looking in the gargoyle mirror at my chart, magnifying all of the worst qualities of it. And then I came to a certain point in time where I was like, okay, regardless, this is the chart that I've been given. This is the appearance that I've been given. How can I view it through the most empowering lens? Not denying I've got Pluto squares, 6th house stellium, but how am I going to utilize this to thrive, to survive, to choose to be here, to choose to keep going? That's what the Aries solar eclipse is asking all of us to do. And to understand more so where you are being asked to have courage, to initiate, to step into the trueness and the authenticity of who it is that you are, we're going to take it into our sign by sign, house by house astrological analysis. Not every eclipse changes our life, and thank goodness for that. Sometimes we have eclipses where we are eclipsed, like we have a significant life change, we have a significant revelation, we have significant information that comes out that is more definitive. And sometimes our eclipse story is a little bit more subtle. We all have an eclipse story. We all have an arena and a territory of our chart that this eclipse is bringing up. But for some of us, it's a little bit more of an exclamation point. And for some of us, it's a little bit more of a comma, right? And so I want to start with who is most likely having that exclamation point moment around this eclipse, a more significant eclipse on March 29th, 2025. So this eclipse lands at 9 degrees Aries. So if you observe within your birth chart, you have Aries placements, Cancer placements, Libra placements, or Capricorn placements positioned within your birth chart between the degrees of 4 and 14, that'll be the numbers that's right next to it. This may be a more significant eclipse for you, as the eclipse itself will be conjoining, squaring, or opposing a placement of yours. And harsh aspects are typically felt a little bit more intensely. Now, not all placements are considered the same. I would put the most weight or emphasis if you have your sun, your moon, your Mercury, your Venus, or your Mars positioned in Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn between 4 to 14 degrees, as that's a little bit more personal to you. Like if you were born in the Jupiter Capricorn generation or the Saturn and Libra generation between those degrees, it's not to say that it's not significant for you, but I would always put more weight on personal placements, as that's more of a personal look at you and the month and the day and the time that you were born, versus, you know, everyone born in the same year as you will have Jupiter and Capricorn. Everyone born in the same 2.5 year time span will have Saturn and Libra like you. So we're going to put more weight on the personal placements as well as the angles. So if you see that you have your ascendant, thus your descendant, your IC, thus your midheaven, between 4 to 14, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, that indicates this eclipse will square 2 of your angles, which also could be more significant. I also want to just bring about a broader statement here by saying that even if you have Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn not between 4 to 14 degrees, you have been the main characters of the North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra story that we are wrapping up concretely with this eclipse. So you may have found the past 2 years has been pretty significant as it relates to changes, things shaking up. Also, even if you don't fall in those categories, but you observe that this eclipse lands in your 1st, 4th, 7th, or 10th houses, this also may be a more significant eclipse for you, as those are the angular houses within astrology. Now, let's get into how you can find which house that this lands in. Because even if you don't fall in any of those categories, this eclipse is activating a life arena for you. So let's talk about how you define that specific life arena within your chart. So there are 2 options for this. The first is if you are newer to astrology or you utilize whole sign house system. What you'll do is you'll find your rising sign, also known as ascendant sign, and you will find the corresponding timestamp within the description. That is your message, that is your reading. If you use Placidus house system, I do as well. It's a little bit more trickier, but I'll walk you through it step by step with an on-screen tutorial. So what you'll do is you'll go to astro.com, you'll input your birth information, and you'll get a circle chart that will look something like this. What you're going to do is you're going to find the Aries glyph. I'm circling it on screen. It's red. It looks like this. And when you go line to line and you kind of follow that section of your chart to the inner circle, you'll see numbers. So here we see that that Aries glyph in that section expands between the 2nd house and the 3rd house. So one option is you could just listen to both of those readings, as that has been what has been kicked up for the past 2 years. If you want to get specific on this eclipse, we'll want to find exactly where 9 degrees Aries lands. So we'll find where Aries begins and Pisces ends. That's right here. So these little grid marks indicate increments of 5. So it goes 5, 10. So the 10-degree grid mark is going to be the closest to 9, so we're going to go a little bit before there. And then when we look to that inner circle, we see that 9 degrees Aries lands within inner planet Janet's 2nd house. So inner planet Janet would advance to the 2nd house timestamp, which may be listed under the same rising sign as her. It may be under a different rising sign than her, but that would be the reading that she would listen to for her chart. If you are a little murky, you're like, Haley, Comet, it might be in the 3rd house, it might be in the 2nd house, I would encourage you to click on the button that says PDF additional charts. And on the right-hand side, it'll let you know which house every sign starts. And that's only if you're like, you can't really tell, like if, you know, your 3rd house were to start at 8 degrees, or if it were to start at 11 degrees, it might be kind of tricky to figure out. And that's a technique that lets you know where that house starts. So without further ado, let's take it into our all signs Aries solar eclipse analysis. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within the 1st house of your astrological natal chart, you may be an Aries ascendant. You may just have 9 degrees Aries located in the 1st house. Either way, you are most definitely a main character of this eclipse, as 1st house is the portion of the chart that represents self and identity. And so this is a solar eclipse, whether it's showing up in your world in big or small ways, where it's important to define who it is that you are, to be proactive around defining yourself and not to be reactive and allowing the world to define you for you. You know, if we do not take agency and initiative over our life, we are then outsourcing our will to other people and their desires and their opinions of how it is that we should live. And even if this just shows up internally and mentally around just deciding this is my life, I'm taking the reins, I'm making decisions that align with me. And that might show up in such minor ways, where you decide to paint your room a different color than other people think that you should paint it. Decide to get a certain certification that other people don't understand, or you even decide to buy the ice cream flavor that you like versus the one that you know that all of your roommates like. Like these small rebellions, in a sense, of claiming our agency around, no, it's my room. I could paint it the color that I want. It's my mind. I can learn the material that I want. It's my money and my ice cream in my mouth. I could buy the flavor that I want, even if it's the unpopular decision. It's not their life. It's not their money. It's not their room. It's not their brain. And you have a right to live your life in the way that nobody else does and in the way that nobody else might. Okay, it's a Lana Del Rey song or a Lucy Grant song. Just had to weave that in. It felt appropriate. But for some of you, this could be showing up in much bigger ways, where you are actively making certain decisions of your life that other people are not a fan of, like in big ways around you're choosing to leave a relationship that obviously the other person wants you to continue to be in. You're choosing to raise your family in a way that your parents don't exactly understand. You are choosing to move and the people around you want you to stay put. Again, it's not their life. And of course, we want to make people happy. We're here to connect, but when we suppress things that we authentically desire, especially for other people or to appease or acquiesce to other people's visions of us, that's where resentment builds. And that feels worthy to mention because at this particular time, Mars is most likely in your 4th house. So again, that brings up family themes, home themes, as well as like emotional state themes. And sometimes we feel very frustrated. We feel very bitter. We feel very resentful because we're not moving the direction of what it is that we desire. And yes, you might be more susceptible to other people's inputs and thoughts around who you are and how you should live. But at the end of the day, it's your life to live. And Aries is around taking responsibility of our life or taking agency of our life for all of it. Again, there might be so many different factors that layer and stack around why you choose to identify yourself in certain ways or make certain decisions or whatever the story may be. And it's not to say that that is not alive, that does not add a degree of pressure. But you have to take responsibility over your life. You have to take responsibility over who it is that you are and take responsibility over all of it. That is a psychological fact of what we do, is that when we succeed, when we win at something, we tend to think that's a result of my hard work, right? I put in the effort and that's what I got. But if we made a mistake, you know, we got a ticket because we were speeding. It's like, well, it's because my boss made me come in early, that's why I had to speed, or it's because my child needed me to feed them, or it's just like the cop was mean that day. Like we tend to be a little bit more passive or just feel like we're at the whim of things when it comes to something that's a little bit more negative, right? We got a speeding ticket. There's an argument, there's a conflict. We tend to be like, oh, it's just the world, or it's just the cop, or it was just my child, or it was my boss. It was like someone else's fault. But my wins, oh, that was all me. And that's natural. Like our minds are wired to do that, right? But I would just say around this Aries solar eclipse, see where it is that you can really take agency and responsibility over your life and all of it. And that could be hard. And it's not to say, especially with the Chiron energy alive, it's not me at all suggesting that it is your fault if you have been betrayed or hurt or manipulated, whatever the story may be. I'm not here victim blaming or anything like this. But this eclipse does ask for a degree around how can I view this in an empowering way that helps me move forward, where it's not my fault that that person came into my orbit or this family member betrayed me or whatever the story is. It's not my fault that this occurred, but my moving forward is my responsibility. And rather than feeling like this is going to keep me back or keep me from the life that I desire, I'm going to use it as fuel. That makes me even more intentional around fighting for what it is that I desire and fighting for what it is that I want out of this life. You know, if you watch my weekly horoscope, Magic Monday, I open up quite a bit about my life and my journey. And if you do watch that, you know that 2024 just about destroyed me. But here we are. We're still going. We're still going. And even though it was horrifically painful and I was done wrong, legitimately, it's so powerful now, my relationship to that wounding, because it's not me saying like, love and light, so happy that my soul was drained from my body and my heart was repeatedly stomped on over and over again. Like, that's not the mentality that I'm in, but I am in a mentality around, wow, I really admire how my strength got me through that. I really admire how that experience lit a fire under my butt for the things that I had not move forward on within my life. Like, it's not that I'm all love and light and gratitude for the situations that hurt me, but I'm grateful to myself for getting through it and for turning that pain into power. And so seeing where it is that you can take an empowering lens around what in your life might be a little raw and tender. Again, see yourself as a warrior within it. Observe what you're learning from it or the strength that you've been able to chisel amidst it. How we view ourselves is important. And I spoke about this within the collective forecast, which I hope you listen to because there's a lot of great nuggets there. But I also just want to highlight, especially for you, this is in your first house. So also just being mindful around where it is that you are defining yourself. Because like I said, that can keep us stuck. It can keep us stagnant if we continually view ourselves as the one who has been harmed in a situation. It's not to say that you were not, but it's being very intentional around defining yourself simply as a victim of that situation rather than someone who's going to be a victor of your entire life. And of course, there's seasons for everything. Don't rush your process of healing. If that is alive, that's probably just for a select few. But be very intentional, even if you're in it, like being very active around, I am healing. I am ending generational curses on my family. I am rewiring my internal landscape. And you will reach a point in time in which those identities no longer align for you. You know, I definitely in that season of my life, I was like, I'm healing. And then I came to a point in the journey, actually very recently, where I recognized that seeing myself in that identity of healing was perpetuating that reality. I was like, well, I'm healing, which served me when I was in pain because I was like making that decision. No, I'm healing every single day. My outer reality reflects that I'm dedicated to my healing, my physical, emotional, spiritual, and psychological healing. That was an identity that served me because before that, it was just, I am destroying. I'm actively destroying myself. I was healing. But then there came to be a point in time where I was like, this actually doesn't fit any longer. It's actually keeping me in that pain, more so identified with that pain. And it's not that the healing's ever done, but it came a point in time in which I started defining myself in new ways because that process of like deep healing and that being woven within my identity, that was no longer helpful. That was kind of keeping me in that era that I'm so grateful I'm out of. Truly. So just being mindful how it is that you identify yourself. Some of you could be going through some sort of major identity shift and like really letting that sink in where it's like, whoa, you know, I'm a mother now. Or like, whoa, I'm an East Coaster now. Whoa, I'm a husband now. Like, whoa, like certain identity shifts could be alive and you're like having a moment around, whoa, okay, am I ready for this season of my life? And with this Aries solar eclipse, the nudge is yes, you are. And South Node has since moved into Pisces, but it has been for the last 2 years in your 7th house. So a lot of you could have gone through certain shifts as it relates to your relationships. Some of you could have had certain breakups. You could have parted ways with a business partner of some sort. You also just could have let go of needing to be understood or validated by other people, like really wanting to take agency around validating yourself. Because the more that we externally validate ourselves around, I'm worthy because this person is choosing me, I am valuable because my business is doing these numbers, or I am this because of this. This Aries solar eclipse is really nudging you to step into, I am because I am. I am valuable because I am. I am worthy because I am. And of course, we crave connection, we crave success, and it's not to say those things cannot be a part of your reality, but you actually are much more magnetic to it when you find that within yourself. Because when you're hungry for validation and approval for other people, it is an endless search. It's never enough. You get a hit and then you come back and you need more. Versus when you generate it for yourself, you are an ever renewing resource. And that pours out into so many areas of your life. And actually the success that you want, the adoration that you want becomes a lot more accessible when you're not so hungry or reliant of it. And so a lot of you could have during this time really felt this call around no longer people pleasing. Some of you could have let go of codependency. Some of you could have let go of tendencies within you to mold into what would be the most appealing to those that you were connected with, and really wanting to take the reins and be yourself, be authentically yourself. First house also brings up themes of our physicality, our style even. And so some of you may be doing certain like beauty shifts that just make you feel like you. And my encouragement, Venus is retrograde right now. It would not be my encouragement to do anything daring and bold, but some of you very well may be doing that, like dyeing your hair the color that your family said that you shouldn't, or just doing things where it's like, this is me, this is who I am. Can I be myself now? Like, can I just be myself now? It's so exhausting to play a role and perform. I think some of you might have had certain acknowledgments, maybe it'll happen around this eclipse, around certain people that you feel like you have to perform around or be a certain way around. And this Aries solar eclipse is around, be around people who make you feel safe and comfortable to be fully yourself. And to attract those sort of situations within your life, you need to be comfortable being fully and authentically yourself. And some of you could be expressing that or depicting that via your style at this time. Some of you could be getting into working out or fitness or your physical upkeep in some way. And the solar eclipse sextiles Pluto in Aquarius. So for some of you, you could be seeing the gains in the gym, or, seeing the results from Pilates, or the benefits of walking, 2 miles every day, or whatever it is for you. And it's making you feel more inspired and empowered to go after the hopes and dreams that you want, which with Pluto most likely in your 11th house, may be going through a bit of an overhaul at this time. And again, maybe that's showing up in ways that other people don't understand or aren't validating, and you're being asked to validate yourself, decide for yourself, this is your life. But there's also this energy around the renewal and the recovery that you witness within your physical vessel. Around after Pilates, I was sore and then I got stronger. Like after I lifted that really heavy weight, I was sore and then I got stronger. It's like the more that you're challenging yourself, the more that you are feeling more courageous to take on different dreams for yourself. Around, it'll be hard, but then you get stronger, right? You recover. Like Pluto brings in these themes of reinvention and resilience. So maybe even the physical progress that you are seeing, there's an energy where you are feeling more inspired to replicate that in other arenas of your life, where it might be hard to start a YouTube channel, but we're going to show up, we're going to keep going, and we'll get better and we'll get those results that we want. It might be hard to put ourselves out there to make new friends socially, but we do that. It's hard, sometimes stressful, right? But we get the results that we want when we show up. And there is something to be said around things that come a little bit more challenging. We really do cherish the things that were hard to build. We truly do. If something comes easy, a lot of times we don't really value it or we don't really appreciate it. Versus if you have been dedicated in the gym, those gains are going to be so much more rewarding because you know what went into it. Same goes with building a YouTube channel or building successful friendships. It's of course, we could want logically something to come easy, but actually strength is built in times of challenge. And there could be some connection around the dedication that you are making to your physical vessel in some way, could be echoing into your power, resilience within your hopes and dreams for the future. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within the 2nd house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Pisces ascendant. You may just have 9 degrees Aries located in the 2nd house. And this eclipse for you activates the sector of your chart, and thus the sector of your life, around finances, money, possessions, and self-worth, values. And I want to speak to this more so in a broader sense before we get into the nitty-gritty of what you may expect financially around your own worthiness and your own self-esteem, because second house does govern this. This eclipse, I really want you to step into that energy around know your worth and then add tax. Truly, which could show up financially, like some of you are taking the reins over your financial situation, but also just around your energy. Okay, know how valuable your energy is and you as an individual is. You know, a lot of you are Pisces risings. And if that's the case, you have Saturn in the first house most likely. And Saturn in the first house is a transit where you're being asked to stand on business, know your limits, know your no's, know your yeses, and be willing to enforce consequences if people do not meet your standards. And again, as Pisces ascendants, typically there's this energy around, well, I see where they're coming from and I'm amenable to their situation. But it's like, you can understand where someone is coming from and still not settle for the scraps that they are giving you. Like, you can remove yourself from that situation. And some of you may find at this time you are being nudged to do just that. You know, it's so important not to underquote yourself or undervalue yourself, because people will give you what you ask for. So if you are self-employed or something like this and you say, I will accept this much for, you know, a brand deal or to do this commission for you, people will give you that much. And they might have had a barrier that they were expecting, but once you say, oh, I only need this much, they're like, oh, they'll give you that. No one's going to say, oh, we were going to pay you $1,200. No, you're asking for $300, but let's give you the $1,200. No, they'll pocket the $900 that could have been yours and give you the $300. And that's where it's important to know your worth. And it's hard to really know that and to step into that and advocate for that with the Aries solar eclipse. And that's exactly what a lot of you are guided to do, which, like I stated, could very much show up financially. Some of you could be asking for raises at this time. Some of you could be raising your prices at this time. Some of you could be really initiating the circumstances that will allow you to get paid more at this time. But for some of you, it's just recognizing this is below my worth. This is below my value. And that could be showing up within your love relationships, right? You could be settling for less than you deserve, settling for scraps because this person knows that you will take scraps. No. With Saturn in first house, you've got to stand on business. And sometimes standing on business will mean that there are certain brand deals where they weren't able to meet the amount that it really is worth for you to do it on your end, or the commissions. Or sometimes it will mean that you have lonely nights that you could be, you know, at this person's house, Netflix and chilling or whatever. But it's worth it to know your worth. Your energy is priceless. And if you are settling for situations that you know are not really what you desire, you don't desire to do this commission for $300. That doesn't feel like an equal energetic exchange. You don't desire a situationship that you see every so often and is not really moving in the direction that you want. Like, that's not what you desire. And again, if you let people passively decide what it is that you're worth and what it is that you will have and what it is that you deserve, that's exactly what it is that you will receive until you take the reins and say, no, I'm not someone who engages in situations like this, or I'm not someone who works 8 hours and puts money towards supplies to make, you know, a fraction of this commission. Like, I am not someone who accepts that. And I want to be so clear, I'm just naming these things as examples. I'm not casting any judgment. Everybody needs to decide for themselves what it is that they desire, what it is that they want. And I'm not saying that it's bad if you do commissions for $300, you have a situationship. This house is not necessarily explicitly related to those themes. I'm just giving examples around recognizing that your energy is valuable. And if you are settling for less than you deserve, that does erode our self-esteem. Because let's say it's really a value of mine where I'm like, I'm a monogamous person, I want to build something with someone else, but I'm settling for less than I deserve with freaking Bob, who I see multiple nights a week. It's just an example. that's going to erode my self-esteem, because as I watch myself accept this sort of behavior, see myself being tucked down to, see myself being demeaned, see myself being given breadcrumbs, I'm going to internalize that. I'm going to feel like that's what I deserve, right? That's what I'm worth. And as I continue on in my dating life, I might go into other dating situations and be like, oh yeah, it's fine if we just do this, or it's fine if you don't commit to me, or things like that. No, because it erodes you. When you want something more, or you know that you're worthy of more, but you settle for less, it erodes you eventually. And that's more damaging in the long run than not getting that commission or being a little lonely because you're not hanging out with Bob multiple times a week. Like, your sense of self-esteem and self-worth is everything within this lifetime. And sometimes you got to fight for it. You know, with the energy of Aries solar eclipse, you got to fight for the circumstances that you desire. You can't force Bob to want what you want, but you need to know your worth if Bob's not seeing it for you. You need to know your worth, that this person who wants to pay you $300 for a commission isn't seeing it for you. No one will do that unless you do. And if you don't want to burn yourself out doing all these $300 commissions and making like no money, or delaying yourself from finding someone you can actually build with because you're just like spending time with Bob when that's not really what you want. Like, Aries solar eclipse is around you taking initiative, taking the reins. You can't force this person to pay you $1,200 for a commission. Can't force Bob to take the next step for you. But you can decide how you show up. You can say no to the commission. You can say no to Bob. You can decide that. And it's hard. You know, the South Node in Libra was in your 8th house, which governs shared resources and shared energy and debt, as well as where it is that we feel indebted. And Libra is a sign that's very much associated with like people-pleasing, codependency. And again, I think because a lot of you are Pisces rising, you can sense things, you can feel energy. And because that is the case, you can sense what Bob wants you to be, and then you'll be what Bob wants you to be. Or you can sense that this commission person really wants you to do this artwork, but they only have this amount of budget. Like, you can feel into all of these other people's emotions and feel indebted to things that are not yours to carry. Not yours to carry. Like, again, Pisces tends to be a very empathetic energy. So you could be like, well, I feel bad. They really want my painting. But it's like, then you bear the brunt of not making any money after supplies and after time and after labor. Like, you bear the brunt of that. Or, you know, Bob's just going through a hard time and it would be so mean to walk away now. Well, he's putting you through a hard time. Like, take agency over your life, truly, is kind of the nudge with this Aries solar eclipse. And also take agency over your finances. You know, at this time, Mercury and Venus are both retrograde, and both of these retrogrades at one point in time were in your 2nd house. So a lot of you are looking at your finances. Yes, how it is that you make money and maybe redefining that. Some of you could be relabeling offerings within your business. You could be reflecting on your position now at work, if it's the accurate title for you. Like, I'm even seeing for some of you, like, you might have the title of account coordinator and you're like looking at your responsibilities and you're like, no, I should be an account manager, and that pay gap would be more, and that's like a name that is holding me back, or a title that's holding me back. I'm seeing that that's alive for some of you at this time, reviewing how you make your money, how you could make more money. Some of you are reviewing your spending habits and looking at that. You know, some of you may spend money very impulsively, very erratically, like right when you get it, you spend it right away. And some of you may hold on to money. You have a lot of fear around money. Maybe some of you have certain fight or flight tendencies around money, where even if you're not in a position of scarcity and survival, you still energetically feel like you are. And our body holds on to that. And I want to remind you that just because Aries is a very physical energy, where it's like our body, it's very traumatic. You know, food insecurity is incredibly traumatic. Like any sort of poverty or not having enough money, it's traumatic. Like our body remembers that. So definitely being gentle on yourself if you're still kind of in that energy of survival, even if it's not your current reality, if you're processing experiences from the past that have shaped and molded your relationship to money, that may be coming up at this particular point in time. And really looking at your relationship with money would be my biggest nudge here. Really getting clear what is coming in, what is going out, and really asking, is this a loving thing to do for myself? Is this a loving thing to do for myself? It can feel loving when we like DoorDash the 7th meal this week. It can feel loving if we take ourselves shopping on retail therapy, but the overall consequences, which a lot of you are having to like look at, you know, with Saturn most likely in the first house, it's not truly loving. Like, expand your definition of self-care. Self-care does not mean indulging your every whim. Sometimes self-care and being loving to yourself is doing the hard thing and going to the grocery store to meal prep yourself, even if it's not as fun as door dashing right away, because you know that's actually loving. To set myself up for financial security is loving. To save more money is loving to myself within the long run. That also could be something that you are looking at this time. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within the 3rd house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You could be an Aquarius rising, you could not be an Aquarius rising, you may just have 9 degrees Aries in your 3rd house. But either way, the eclipse is igniting the territory of your chart that governs communication, the mind, neighbors, siblings. I know it's kind of random, so let's get into it. I want to start with the mind because, like I said within the general portion, there's a lot around this eclipse around defining ourselves, identifying ourselves. And with this kicking up a very mental territory of your chart, it's very important to look at your narrative of your life and your narrative of yourself that's like playing within your mind. Just being very conscious of certain, you know, self-deprecating jokes that you make. Like, truly your word is your wand. So if you're gonna make jokes, start making jokes around how successful you are or how hot you are, or things like this. Again, I'm not approaching this from this lens around, you know, good thought, good word, bad word. Be careful not to speak anything into existence just in case you unintentionally manifest it. I'm not saying that you need to be like all paranoid about it, but I'm just saying have that degree of mindfulness around how am I talking to myself? Like, how am I labeling myself? How am I joking about myself? Mind is like a Google search engine, truly, where if I were to type into a Google search engine, show me any sort of music besides Taylor Swift, it's not going to show me every musical artist besides Taylor Swift. It's going to show me Taylor Swift because I put that in the query. And so it's also just being mindful that our mind is very literal that way. It doesn't always pick up on, you know, sarcasm and jokes and things like that. So if we're saying, oh, I'm so ugly, or, you know, within the overall section, I was like joking that a certain mirror in my house makes me look like a gargoyle. Like, that's not very nice, right? Because your mind doesn't always tell that you are being sarcastic. Sometimes it like really just inputs that around I am a gargoyle. And sometimes that just like ricochets into our overall life where we tune into data that affirms that we are a gargoyle, right? And it's just being conscious of that. If you do have a tendency to impulsively make self-deprecating comments or things such as this, start making jokes around how amazing you are and all of the things that you desire. And also just being conscious around things that you like worry about. You know, this alignment happens when Mercury is conjoining Neptune, and Neptune can be illusion energy. It can be very visionary. It can be a planet that's helpful for manifesting, for seeing it as though it's real. But it can also be seeing our nightmares as though it's real as well. So also just being conscious what it is that you dream of, what it is that you think of when you're falling asleep, how it is that you talk to yourself, how it is that you even talk to others, truly. So bringing the focus outside of communication with yourself, I want to highlight communication with others. Your word is your wand. It's very important to be intentional with your language. Some of you may need to say something hard at this time, and it's hard to say the hard thing, right? It's hard to be fully authentic and honest, but it is the more loving thing to do. If you are someone where you have a tendency where you don't want to be honest with someone because you don't want to hurt their feelings or deal with the fallout, it's much more erosive to delay it until the last second or to not tell that person this. It's much more corrosive to connection to tell them what they want to hear rather than the truth. Like, that is like poison for our connections. And it is hard to be honest at times, especially if it involves your desires. Maybe you want something and someone within your life doesn't want the same thing as you. And maybe you've been going along with what it is that they want. And this might be a solar eclipse around, I've got to say the hard thing. I've got to advocate for myself, or else I'm going to be living a life that's not my own. I only have me to blame. Like, I'm the one who didn't speak up. And that could be showing up around information that is relevant now. You know, I do want to highlight that this eclipse lands at a time that Mercury is retrograde retrograde, that Venus is retrograde. And both of these retrogrades, for most of you, impacted your third house. So some of you are thinking of the past and things that you should have said, right? Shoulda, woulda, coulda. And shoulda, woulda, coulda will keep you stuck. Like truly, the Aries solar eclipse, believe in the power of new beginnings. Like don't feel like you have to say that final thing for you to finally move on, or hear that final thing from someone else to finally move on. I am of the belief that closure a lot of times is an illusion, right? It is something that we have to give ourselves. And if you're just waiting for that last piece of data or information where you finally feel like you can move on, or to tell your ex that they're a dum-dum for that final time, you just feel like that'll be the healing balm that'll help you to move forward. Sometimes when we do go back to these connections and just hoping that they will tell us the thing that will help with our healing journey, or us delivering these words will help us with our healing journey, a lot of times it is quite disappointing because it doesn't hit like we thought it was going to hit. It doesn't give us what we thought it was going to give us. And sometimes it can ensnare us longer within the pattern because we're waiting on this person or their reaction or their presence to finally kickstart our healing journey, which is your responsibility. Like Aries solar eclipse is around us taking the agency and the responsibility over our lives. And maybe for some of you with the ruler of this eclipse squaring Chiron over your healing. Someone else cannot give you your healing. Somebody else does not have the magic key where your healing awaits. Like you have to give that for yourself. And sometimes our mind tricks us around, if I can only get that apology from them, if I could only hear them say that they're sorry for how they hurted me, then I wouldn't hurt anymore. Then I would move forward. And sometimes when we ensnare ourselves in that and wait for that, firstly, we're waiting, right? We're waiting while life is passing us by on somebody else to do something. This Aries solar eclipse is around, no, I don't need to wait on anybody to do anything. Like, this is my life, right? And secondly, a lot of times when we do get it, it's like, wait, I thought I was supposed to be healed when I did receive this apology. And then sometimes it just keeps us on this journey around, what do I need in order to move forward? Again, ensnaring us within this certain chapter even more deeply. Now, for some of you, I'm seeing that you're craving conversation because it's something that you need to say. Like I said, maybe you need to say that your ex is a dum-dum. Listen, I don't judge. You do what you gotta do. Or maybe some of you feel like you need to give an apology. Again, I do think there's a lot of power in saying the hard thing, right? But I want you, if you do engage, if you are like, no, Haley, Comet, I do crave closure. I have certain questions I genuinely feel like will help me move forward. Or no, Haley, Comet, I do owe this person an apology. I need to go back to this person in order to relay this in order for me to move forward. Again, do that, but center it in yourself. It's not about this person forgiving you once you give this apology. Like if it's important to get off your chest, give the apology, but you have to let go of how this person may respond. Because a lot of times people do not respond in the way that we thought that they would. And if you're waiting for this person to finally forgive you or say, oh, it's okay, or things like that, you might be waiting a long time. And this person and their accepting of your apology isn't the one who keeps you from moving forward. It's you. And sometimes even we get them saying it's okay, like it's fine, but we still are ensnared in like guilt and shame and just stuck in it. You know, we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And your work, if you have hurt somebody, and your work is to honestly and genuinely do what you feel like is necessary in order to make the karmic scales even, right? Be genuinely sorry, be genuinely remorseful. Back it up with change behavior. Do whatever is necessary to make the situation right. You know, pray for forgiveness if that's part of your overall worldview. Like, do what's necessary, but recognize where you are keeping yourself stuck in guilt and shame and waiting for someone else to tell you it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Like at a certain point, you have to find that for yourself. And so certainly, if you feel so inclined, you want to write someone a letter, you want to apologize, you want to talk to someone from your past in order to ask the questions that you did not receive. It's not me saying not to do that, but a lot of times we can go to get that apology and that person will tell us to kick rocks, right? Because that's where they're at in their healing journey. We can't control other people. That's the thing. And so if you do feel like you need to tell your ex that they're dum-dum, or you need to apologize or something like this, do that only if you are in a place of detachment of how that person may respond. Do that only if it's like, this is something I need to get off my chest for my own journey, Because if you're waiting for this person to give you this perfect, idealized response of them saying, oh, it's all good, or them saying, oh, I was a dum-dum and you were the best thing, like, we're going to be waiting a long time. And Aries solar eclipse is about being impatient for the things that really matter. This is your life. This is your life. And again, we should all intend not to hurt one another and not to lie to one another, but all we can do is, apologize. And I want to say, you don't even necessarily need to go back to that person to do that. Like, burn letters are an amazing asset at this time. Write everything you want to say to this person, or anything that's rage that you have, or anything, like, put it into a burn letter, burn it up, see that the universe takes that in, right? Write a letter of appreciation to yourself after to kind of like neutralize the energy. And recognize that at least you are allowing these words to be shared. At least you are validating what is moving through you. Like, it just wants a release. It just wants somewhere to go, right? And sometimes we don't even need to necessarily go to that person. We can write it into a letter or something like this. And I would even say, if you're feeling very tempted to reach out to someone or something like this, see what it feels like to text yourself. Okay, write a letter to yourself, write what you would say. Sometimes our words just want to be shared somewhere. And with the energy of retrograde, I would encourage you, before you like open up a wound or reactivate a source of a lot of pain by going back to someone who has hurt you, see where it is that you can find that closure within yourself, or within a letter, or within texting yourself, or things like this. Again, everyone's journey is your own. You may find, no, Haley, I need to go back to this person. I need this answer, or I need to apologize. And that is your agency to do that. But I would encourage you to really be thoughtful around what really wants to be shared. And some of you could just be thoughtful around your communication overall, how it is that you say yes when you mean no, how it is that you play the role of what other people want you to be, rather than standing firm in your own opinion. That could be a focus here. And again, maybe for some of you that's showing up around siblings, you're making a decision for your life that's different than what your siblings are deciding for their lives. Maybe for some of you that's around a neighbor. Maybe you're having to advocate for yourself around a neighbor and disrupt this ideal of you being the perfect neighbor who's always quiet as a mouse and doesn't create any issues, because there's something where it's like, okay, this is not okay with me. I need to advocate for myself here. But even as it relates to like social media, that could be a third house theme. You may find at this time that you are being guided to share on things that are not for everybody. If we try to make our message for everybody, it'll be for nobody. And Aries is our raw authenticity. So there could be certain decisions that you're wanting to make with your content, with your social media, with your sales, with your marketing, something like this, that you recognize this might be polarizing, this might be controversial. I might not maintain all of the followers that I've had up to this point because this is not for everyone. But again, there's so much power in communication. Like, a lot of times the things that we don't communicate kind of stay within us, right? They swim and they swirl within us, and it can like layer and stack on itself. Again, there's so much power in what we name and what we voice. And if you are someone where you play it safe and you don't talk about the things that you really want to talk about, like, that builds up, and sometimes it even shows up in unsavory and unpleasant ways, right? Where you feel so stifled, your voice feels so swallowed up because you can't talk about what you want to on your social media channels or things like this. Sometimes we like lash out in other arenas, just wanting to have a voice, right? In some arena. And I'm not saying you need to like vocalize every thought that comes in your head. But if you feel like you're playing a role the moment that you log on to, Instagram.com, I don't think anyone goes to Instagram.com, but you know what I mean? Every time you log into TikTok or go on YouTube or things like this, feeling you have to play a role or perform, observe that. Performing is exhausting. Or versus being yourself, that's what makes you you, firstly, and it makes you magnetic. And third house also deals with like sales. So even if you're not on social media, there could be a nudge to be a little bit bolder as it relates to your sales tactics, as it relates to your marketing. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within the 4th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Capricorn rising. You potentially may not be a Capricorn ascendant. You may just have 9 degrees Aries located in the 4th house. But either way, the territory that is coming up and being activated at this time is around your home, it's around your family, it's around your emotional state. This life is your own, and you do not have to conform to the role that your family has decided that you should play. And there feels to be some sort of activation at this time, and maybe it's been alive within your journey if North Node Aries has been transiting here for some time, around needing to define yourself outside of how your family would define you. Maybe there's even certain titles that your family has given you that you're recognizing that's not true to me. Maybe your family's always joked that you're, the quiet one, you're the shy one, and you're recognizing like that's not true to me. And maybe you're naming yourself in new ways that differ from being, oh, just shy little Timmy, always in the background. It's like, no, I'm not shy little Timmy anymore. My family doesn't define me, I define me. And even in bigger ways, beyond just personality characteristics, if you've been told, oh, you'll never amount to anything, they don't define that for you. They don't decide that for you. You decide that for you. And so it's being very conscious of certain messages you could have received from family and questioning, is this true? Because sometimes we take these things in as fact, right? When we're little, when we're growing up, we're taking in so much data, we just accept everything, right? That's why little children are so gullible, right? Because they accept everything as truth. And a lot of times, even as we're older, we accept these messages and we weave it in. Oh, I'm shy and little, or oh, I'll never amount to anything. And this is a solar eclipse around, is that true? Like, is that true for the trueness of who it is that I am? And a lot of you at this time, you're making certain decisions that maybe your family actively does not agree with. Maybe you're marrying someone where your family does not approve, or the way that you're living your life, you're structuring it in ways that your family does not approve of. Even if they don't overtly say, we don't approve of you, maybe there's just a feeling around everybody else in my family did this and I'm doing this. But you're allowed to make the decisions that you want. It is your life. And so there's this acknowledgement during this eclipse around taking the reins around my family does not define me, I define me. Or even if you feel pushed or pressured to making certain decisions because it's what your family expects from you or wants of you, again, it is your life. And if any of you have like caregivers who tell you that you are somehow indebted to them because they gave you life, this Aries solar eclipse could be you really recognizing, I do not need to be who you want me to be just because you gave me life. Like, I am my own authentic individual. And that's hard and that can be painful. And I want to state that because a lot of you may currently have Chiron in the 4th house. The solar eclipse ruler at this time is squaring Chiron. Like, this is ouch. Like, why do I feel like I have to perform around my family? Or why can't they accept me for who it is that I am, or who it is that I love, or what it is that I desire? Like, why it hurts. It could be pinging at this overall sense of a lack of belonging around, you guys don't get me. I feel like I have to be different in order to get your approval. Or even if you are no longer connected with your family, there could be residue of messages that they've told you around hearing you'll never amount to anything when you walk into this interview of this job that could change your life, and you having to actively dismantle these messages that you were received and the messages that you've internalized, especially with the Mercury-Neptune conjunction that's building at the time of this solar eclipse. Like, Neptune can be smokescreen energy. So again, if you move into this interview, you'll never amount to anything. You're going to show up differently versus I am strong and powerful and I can get what it is that I set my mind to, right? So really question the messages that you've received from childhood. And for some of you, this could just show up around needing to set certain limits with family members, or needing to stand up for yourself, needing to advocate for what it is that you believe in. Maybe you have different religious beliefs in your family, or you're making certain decisions for your children than your family made for you, or you're moving somewhere that your family doesn't necessarily understand. This Aries solar eclipse is not really backing down from conflict. And I'm not saying you need to fight with someone during an eclipse, or that you're necessarily going to fight with family or roommates even at this time. But it's important to know that you need to fight for what you believe in and who it is that you are. And furthermore, what's going to make you happy with the energy of 4th house. This is our emotional state. And so if you feel bitter and resentful because you've tried to go above and beyond for certain family members, if you feel bitter and resentful because you've gone along with the family business even when you didn't want to, if you feel bitter and resentful because you've tried to be everything your family wanted you to be and you still feel like you're coming up short, like, of course, we shouldn't have, family members who pressurize us, but you do have to take a little bit of agency and responsibility over, this is my life. If I'm unhappy, I have to do something about it. Truly, I have to be active and assertive about my own emotional state. That's the nudge of Aries solar eclipse. Again, I'm not invalidating what it is that you've gone through or the harm that's been done to you. What has happened to you is not your fault, but how you proceed forward is your responsibility. And with this Aries solar eclipse, your happiness is your own responsibility. And your happiness means sometimes having to stick up for yourself, right? Or having to make people a little unhappy around, I don't want to be in the family business, or don't live in the same country as all of my family, or I don't want to live in this particular house. You are worthy of sticking up for. You are worthy of standing up for. Your happiness is worthy of standing up for. And some of you may need to be assertive around a living situation of some sort. Maybe there's some sort of roommate situation. Maybe you're having to be assertive and taking a role around the decoration of your home in order to make it a place that feels like you. Aries is a very authentic energy. And so if you feel like you're walking on eggshells within your home environment, if you feel like you look around, it doesn't even feel like yourself, this Aries solar eclipse could be like, what could make this environment feel like a reflection of who it is that I am authentically? And sometimes we aren't in a situation in our life where we're able to move out if we are in an environment that we don't love, or we're able to change roommates right away. But the ask is, how can I take agency over my situation? Even if that's as small as making your living situation more enjoyable by painting your room a color that you like, or making your living situation a little bit more enjoyable by setting up like a chore wheel or something like this. Like, we can't control everything in life, but seeing where it is that you can step into a place of power around your living situation, around your home. And even if it shows up in very micro ways, you call your parents and you feel like you have to be what they expect you to be. Like, see where it is that you can step into your inner Aries energy around being unapologetic, being raw, being true to yourself. I know a lot of times we feel like we have to filter around family, and certainly in some instances that is appropriate. But if you feel like you become a different person, if you're performing, like this Aries solar eclipse is around, what would it look like to take this mask off? Because a lot of times when we do take that mask off, we are even more lovable because we're being even more true to ourselves. When we stop trying to be what other people have expected us to be and we authentically embrace who it is that we are, a lot of times we are surprised by the response that we get of genuine, love and devotion, which I know is not the case in every certain situation. That's how you deserve to be loved, though. Recognize that unapologetically, authentically, who it is that you are. But sorry to be corny, but it's better to be hated for who it is that you are rather than loved for who it is that you are not. And there is a theme here around frustration of how independent or how self-sufficient you've had to be. A lot of you are Capricorn risings. You have Aries in the 4th house. You've had Pluto in your 1st house likely for a long span of time for most of you. And all of this signals that you've had to be incredibly strong, probably more strong than you would have wanted to be. And for a lot of you, you've had to grow up really fast. You've had to be independent. You've had to be self-sufficient. You've had to count on yourself. And this could have led to hyper-independence, which may come up for review at this time during this Aries solar eclipse. Because two things can be true at once. You can acknowledge and appreciate, like, wow, I love how independent I am, or I love how self-sufficient I am. That is such a gift. While also acknowledging, I shouldn't have had to be that independent. I shouldn't have had to be that self-sufficient. Like, I should have had more help. I should have had more support around me. Like, you can hold both of those things to be true. And what I want you to be conscious of during this eclipse is really validating your emotions, like the validity and the honesty of your emotions. Because for some of you, there could be tendencies to brush things under the rug, under the guise of you have to be strong all of the time, or other people's emotions are more important than your own. And this is an Aries solar eclipse to be like, no, there's a reason why I feel what it is that I feel. And maybe for some of you, you could suppress it until it just finally, like, you have a lash out or you're very reactive because things layer and stack in such a way. And maybe you even dismiss the emotion with the response that it elicited from you. So for example, if you crashed out when something happened, after viewing that, like, gosh, that was so embarrassing, I crashed out, and thinking the entire thing was ridiculous, when the emotion that prompted the crash out was very valid. Like, don't invalidate yourself just because it was a little messy or a little raw, or you weren't 100% strong all of the time. Like, that's okay. Validate your emotions, validate how you feel. Of course, take responsibility of how you choose to show up because of those emotions. Like, we don't need to crash out over everything, right? We are responsible for how our emotions cause us to behave, but you're not wrong or bad or weak for having emotions altogether. And I feel that some of you have that weaved into your own internal landscape, maybe out of necessity, right? You had to be responsible from a young age. You had to grow up before you were ready to. And so there's a part of you who feels like these emotions are inconsequential and thus insignificant. And sometimes that can lead to detrimental effects within our outer world because we suppress the authenticity of what it is that we feel and what we want, what we desire to a deep level, and what makes us happy to a deep level. This is the roots of who it is that you are. And I see during the solar eclipse, you're really stepping into this deeper level of trust around the person that you are, the judgment that you have, and the emotions that you feel. If the Aries solar eclipse on March 29th, 2025 lands within the 5th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may be a Sagittarius rising, you may not be a Sagittarius rising. You may just have 9 degrees Aries within the 5th house. But either way, with an eclipse activating this territory of the chart, it's kicking up themes around romance, dating, children, inner child, fun, amusement, play. Firstly, if you are a creative person, if you work in a creative field, if you are self-employed, like anything that you create or birth is 5th house. And please know that anything worth creating is not for everybody. Not everybody's approval, not everybody's receiving it. What you create, who you are, is not for everyone. What it is that you create, how it is that you express yourself, is not for everybody. Do not dilute your own essence. I see for a lot of you, this Aries solar eclipse speaks to a reclamation around not everybody is going to understand my first album. Not everybody is going to understand my novel. Not everybody is going to understand my hobbies. And they don't have to, because it's not their lives. They don't need to understand it. They don't need to accept it. You do. You need to validate yourself and your art and your creative expression. Of course, there's a natural desire, especially if you work in a creative industry or creating something that you hope other people like. Of course, there's that desire that other people will vibe with it and like it as much as you like creating it. Of course. But if we seek to create this lens of how it will be received, we will be eternally searching and craving for that sense of validation that will never come. And you don't create the art that is the truest to you, the most unapologetic, the most raw, when you are trying to mold it and shape it around what will other people like. What is trending even? You know, South Node in Libra was transiting your 11th house, which deals with themes around keeping up with the Joneses and what the collective is doing, which of course there's a desire where you want your creative projects to be successful to a critical mass. Absolutely. But if you create it for the critical mass, it kind of like dilutes the essence of what you were trying to say or express to begin with, right? Trying to make something popular rather than something of substance or something of authenticity, really, with Aries solar eclipse. Some of you could have even distanced yourself from certain friend groups or even just society altogether, like people that you went to school with. Everybody's doing this, you're doing that. Or you see your followers on Instagram or your colleagues and everybody's making certain decisions for their life that you're like, that's not right for me. And I see some of you could have walked away from certain friendship groups or at least walked away from certain expectations that you had on yourself and your journey by comparing yourself to other people. Everybody's on their own timeline. And you don't have to do things that you don't want to do. Like, let that soak into your spirit. Like, if all of your colleagues are jonesing for this promotion, that doesn't mean you need to also want that promotion, because that's what other people are doing. If other people are buying property and settling down and that's not what you want to do, you don't have to do that. If other people are doing certain things within your industry and creatively you're feeling inspired to go in a different direction, you don't have to do that. Reclaim your agency, especially as it relates to your self-expression. It feels like that's what this solar eclipse in Aries is all about. I do feel some of you are taking fun into your own hands. You're taking play into your own hands. Life is meant to be enjoyed. And I know things get dense, things get heavy, things are intense. We've got 2 retrogrades. We're dealing with this eclipse. Things are intense, both within our journey as well as collectively in a time such as this. And I'm not invalidating any of that. But with the Aries solar eclipse, it's really taking having fun into your own hands. Around, you don't need to have endless free time in order to enjoy yourself. You don't have to have endless resources in order to enjoy yourself. Like, you can find the fun and the enjoyment around sitting at your local park and looking at the trees above you, or writing a poem, or even just injecting what it is that you do with a lightheartedness, with a humor. You know, this Aries solar eclipse is kicking away any tendency within us to wait to live. Especially with you having had South Node transit your 11th house, and most likely now South Node's in your 10th house. Like, a lot of you may feel less ambitious as it relates to the outer world at this point in time. And sometimes that can make us feel like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I used to so want this promotion, or I so wanted to succeed, and now I want to have more fun. I want to enjoy myself. Sometimes we could be like, what's going on with me? But there's just a focus at this time around being more concerned with how your life feels and less so how it looks and how it compares to other people. It reminds me of that parable, if you've heard of it, where the fisherman is fishing and he's approached by a businessman who comes up to him and says, you know, we could turn your fishing operation into a major business. We could scale this. You could get a bigger boat. You could fish more in order to drive more profit. And then the fisherman says, what then? Like, what then after I'm making all of this money and I have this big boat and I'm fishing all of this? And the businessman says, you could retire and then you could just spend your days fishing. And he's like, that's what I'm already doing. It's so important to know that more does not necessarily indicate better. Sometimes the things that we desire, the bigger and the greater things, we think that happiness is going to be waiting there, and that's not always necessarily the case. And any vision or dream that's truly worth chiseling will be one where you enjoy it. And so maybe for some of you, you could be starting something creative. Like I said, 5th house is around like birthing. So sometimes you do make something, and ensure that it's true to what it is that you enjoy doing. You know, they say if you love what you do, you won't work a day in your life. I'm not saying this needs to be a work thing. But if you've been waiting to dance because you love to dance, but you're like, as soon as the kids grow up, or as soon as this happens, then I'll dance. Or if you've been waiting to do art until you feel like you're good enough, or waiting for this or waiting for that, the Aries solar eclipse is around take agency of your life now. Be proactive of your life now. What's stopping you from getting what it is that you desire right now? Do you feel like joy will be waiting for you in the next promotion once these people like you, once you're seen as a success? It's eternal. The goalposts will consistently move. You'll constantly be pushing out. Find joy now, even if that shows up in small ways. Prioritize your hobbies. Find moments of wonder within your daily reality. Inject your circumstances with humor. Prioritize the things that you love, the things that make you feel like yourself. A lot of times, as we prioritize our joy, we do actually we do actually become more magnetic, right? Because we're more passionate. We're living a life around our passions and what ignites us and what lights us up. And just with that fisherman parable, again, it's great to grow and to want bigger things, but if you are already happy, like that is the most precious gift of all. And if you're looking at your world and you don't feel happy or joyful, or you have things in your life that are for the sake of fun, this Aries solar eclipse could be about reclaiming it. You know, joy is not something that just happens. It's a decision. It's something that we chisel. It's something that we prioritize. As I stated earlier, this is the sector of the chart that governs children as well as your own inner child. So there could be themes around that, certainly. But we tend to think of children as very joyful, which certainly is the case. But they have so many activities within their daily schedule that are conducive to joy. Right? Like they have recess, they do scavenger hunts, they go to the zoo. It's like a weaved part of their existence, the prioritization of joy and laughter and fun. And we lose sight of that. We lose importance of that. And this Aries solar eclipse could be about you reclaiming that, doing things for the purpose around having fun, doing things for the purpose of expressing yourself, doing things for the purpose of creating. And with this eclipse, if you do have children, this could be a time in which you are advocating either about them or to them. Like you could be advocating for some sort of issue your child is experiencing. This isn't a sector of the chart that governs education, but it could be, for example, like advocating for your child to the principal of their school, or advocating for your child to other family members, or something like this, or kind of protecting what's sacred could be alive here. And with your own children, there also could be something around really appreciating their own authenticity, their own integrity, and appreciating yours as well. You know, if we've constantly been told how to be and what to be, we will sometimes project that unknowingly to our children. And as you heal your own sense of self and allow your own weirdness and eccentricities to shine through, you equally will allow that for your children as well. And so maybe that's a story for some of you. And fifth house also deals with dating. And I see some of you are really being more assertive as it relates to your dating life around, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. These are the sort of dates I want to go on. These are the dates that I don't want to go on. Taking the reins and taking the initiative within your dating. And I'm not saying you need to like be planning all of the dates. If that's not a role that you typically like to play, I'm not saying you need to be bossing people around and telling people what to do, but there could just be an energy around being impatient about the things that matter. You know, your time is very valuable. Like you could be a little frustrated at the wasted time within certain dates, and this Aries solar eclipse could be you affirming or really saying, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. Maybe even before it's societally approved or accepted. Like you could be like, I don't want to waste my time. Do you want children or no? Like on the first date, or I don't want to waste my time. Is this what you want or no? And you also could just be acknowledging the more that you get to know yourself and you really get in your own energy and you embrace the raw zest of who it is that you are, the more you attract people who are in alignment with that. Like, how are we possibly going to attract people who vibe with us if we have not figured out how to vibe with ourselves? Overall, Aries solar eclipse is around authenticity, because truly for us to step into the blessings that the universe is concocting for us, North Node Pisces, we have to embrace who it is that we are. Because if we do not embrace who it is that we are, we will attract the wrong people to us. The mask of who we feel like we have to be will eventually slip, and then it won't be in alignment. And so if you feel like you're not attracting the right sort of people, really get to know yourself, get invested in yourself, get to know your own energy, stay very authentic in who it is that you are. And yeah, your own authentic self, you might not get all of the second dates, but that's okay, because you don't need to waste your time with people that you need to fake or pretend around. And so with this Aries solar eclipse, you could be like, I'm not going to waste my time. This is who I am. I'm going to wear the clothes that I want. I'm going to ask the questions that I want, because this is my time. This is my dating experience. And I need to be assertive around what I desire. You know, if you're someone who's a little bit more passive as it relates to dating and you kind of allow other people to take the reins, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're not pleased with the results that you've been getting from dating, there could be a nudge at this time to really be assertive. What do you want? What are you looking for? Define that for yourself. You know, if you're just like, oh, I'm down for whatever, you will attract people who will come in and try to tell you what to do and who to be. and you will be living a life that doesn't even feel like your own, right? If you were to step into a relationship, like the more that you can really get to know yourself, the more that you will date and connect with people who will also vibe with that authenticity that is within you. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within the 6th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Scorpio ascendant. You potentially may not be a Scorpio ascendant, but either way, you are having a focus during this Aries solar eclipse around your day-to-day, around your work, around your service, around your small animals, around your health. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of this, because this can show up in many different ways, and it likely will reverberate out in each of your lives in a slightly different way. So let's speak to what themes overall this eclipse can prompt. Firstly, I see that there is this focus around taking responsibility, agency, and autonomy over your time. There's like time wasters, ways that you are leaking your time. And part of it could be because you don't want to let people down. You don't want to be rude. You don't want to be pushy. So you're going along with doing things that you really don't want to do. You know, you're saying yes when you mean no. And you are not advocating for yourself around how valuable your time is, truly. Like, there is a reason why some of the most successful people on this planet are very intentional around what gets added to their calendar and what does not. You know, there's so much busy work in this world. There's so much busy work. There's so many tasks that really do not contribute to the bottom line of our world, like truly. And this is an Aries solar eclipse to kind of like declutter your schedule. And for some of you, I'm seeing like really advocate around, this is not something I want to be doing, or this is something that I need support with. I need to delegate this. I need to outsource this. I need to hire someone to do this. Your schedule is your responsibility. And if you feel passive, if you're just like at the mercy of your schedule, this is an Aries solar eclipse to step into. I run my schedule does not run me. Because your schedule will run you if you do not take the reins and have initiative around what gets added to your calendar and what does not. Whether you're a business owner, whether you're a parent, whatever your day-to-day looks like, Aries solar eclipse is around how can I view my schedule in a more empowering way? And what are the tasks that I really don't want to do, but I feel like I have to do out of obligation? I feel like I have to do because out of helping my coworkers. I feel like I have to do in order to be helpful. It's like really look at your schedule, recognize the value of your time, and witness where it is that you have resentment. Because it's like the more that we do things that we don't want to do or keep up with weekly obligations that we don't want to do, we build resentment and frustration towards things that really don't deserve our frustration and resentment. Like, you need to be clear around what gets added to your schedule and what does not. And I know this gets tricky if you work a 9-to-5 or something like this, where you don't always necessarily feel like you have control over what your tasks or responsibilities are. You know, Mercury retrograde impacted this sector, Venus retrograde impacted this sector. There could be an energy around reviewing what's your job description, what are you really doing, reviewing what's on your plate, reviewing your relationship with your coworkers to see, is there anything to be done here? Like, if I feel like I can never get on top of things, I can never get enough done, what can be done here? Because it's so easy to feel disempowered, like there's nothing I can do. This is just my fate. This is just my lot in life. But Aries solar eclipse is around what's one thing I could do to reclaim my time? What's one task I can take off my plate? What's one thing I can simplify or outsource or delegate in order to free up more space and time within my life? And for some of you, this Aries solar eclipse, you could be taking the initiative to seek new employment at this time. Could be a nudge here. You could be taking the initiative to advance within employment, or at least ask yourself, what is it that I enjoy doing as it relates to my day-to-day? Because this is not the sector of work that governs how you're perceived. It's not how you make money. It's what you do. And with the energy of Aries, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with your time, with your energy? What do you want to do? And this isn't my encouragement to impulsively quit, impulsively jump into a new job with the retrogrades. Sometimes it can bring delays. Eclipses kind of show us where shakeups are necessary. Some of you could just recognize during the solar eclipse around, this is not what I want to be doing any longer. I want to take the initiative in order to bring about new circumstances as it relates to my employment. Some of you could be advocating for yourself at work, advocating for yourself around coworkers, something like this. some of you could be really prioritizing a health journey, maybe prioritizing your fitness more, your nutrition, working out, which you might be saying, Healing Comet, life feels so busy, it's so much right now. How will I possibly have time to work out? It's kind of like that quote, if you don't have time to meditate for 15 minutes, you have to meditate for 2 hours. Or if you don't have the energy to work out, you need to work out, which I know is like, what on earth? If I don't have time to meditate for 15 minutes, how am I going to meditate for 2 hours? If I don't have any energy to work out, how am I going to work out? But it's interesting because they do fuel and fortify one another, truly. Around if your schedule is so packed that you don't even have a 15-minute slice of your life in order to meditate, that indicates that you're likely very cluttered mentally as well. Like a lot of times, cluttered schedule equals cluttered mind. And a lot of times, the more that we dedicate towards meditation or mindfulness practice, whatever that looks like to you, the more productive you are, the more focused you are, and the more your schedule does actually clear up. And when it comes to working out, it's like you might be feeling drained and exhausted, but moving your body, while it's hard at first, Aries is an energy that supports a challenge, it does help us with more energy, with more initiative, with more courage, with more confidence. If you work out in the morning, you navigate the rest of your life differently. You just do. You just do. It is an hour that you give to yourself, that you give to your body, that you give to your mind, that you give to your development. And when you regularly, within your daily routine, affirm, I am someone who's worthy of feeling good. I'm someone who's worthy of moving my body. I'm someone who's worthy of feeling strong and confident, that echoes out into your world. These small decisions that we make every single day of our life, they stack, they layer, they become part of our self-concept. With the energy of Aries, how it is that we see ourselves. When I was going through something that I had gone through, my routines really got me through. It's like I was struggling with trusting myself, trusting my judgment in so many other arenas of life, and how I was able to get to that place around trusting myself again, remembering who I was even again, was via my routines, truly, where it's like so much of my life was so out of control, was so destructive, but I was so dedicated, was so intentional, where I was like, regardless of what my life looks like, I meditate every single morning. I do my skincare every single morning. I work out this many times a day. I film Magic Monday every single week. Those were promises to myself that I will show up for these things. And a lot of times I showed up for those things feeling like a hollow shell of a person, but I still showed up for those things. And I'm so glad, because it was such a time in my life that could have taken me down, down, down. And it's like the more that I was waking up, doing my skincare, filming, things like that, keeping my schedule alive and the things that I prioritized alive, the more that I was rediscovering myself, the more that I was affirming by my schedule, I must be somebody who's worthy and valuable if I'm waking up to meditate every morning, and if I'm doing my skincare, and if I'm taking my vitamins. It's like my life circumstances were affirming that I was worthless and all of these other wonderful things. But it was I was affirming by how I showed up day to day, you are worthy, you are valuable. I know you don't feel it right now, but we're going to fake it till we make it in a certain way, and have these certain rituals and have these certain schedules that honestly got me through it. And it was such a wobbly place to be in. I'm so glad that I showed up for myself, even though every part of me did not want to do that. Absolutely. I'm so glad, because I was so wobbly within myself, I could have lost sight of filming Magic Monday, right? Every single week, my weekly horoscope series. I could have lost sight of my physical well-being, my physical health. And even though I arrived to those things, a shell of a human, at least I arrived to those things. And it gave me a daily reminder that I was someone who was worthy, I was someone who was valuable, I was someone who was regularly working on improving. I was someone who was regularly dedicated to my physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, which is really what I want to encourage you to do at this time. Really look at your daily schedule and think about how that may stack. If you were to show up every single day the way that you showed up today, how would those habits stack over time? Because again, even though I was deeply going through it, I was still meditating, I was still doing my skincare, I was working out, I was filming, I was doing the things. I didn't want to do the things, I was doing the things. And that led me to a certain result. If I had chosen instead to fall completely into the vice, if I had chosen instead to completely lose my sense of self, abandon my responsibilities, those habits stack, and I likely would be somewhere different at this particular moment in time. And I share this not in a way around like hustle, grind, get up at 5 a.m. and take cold showers and all of this, but really it doesn't show up in our lives unless it shows up in our days. Look at your daily schedule. Does it affirm not just who it is that you are now, but who you are trying to be? Because Aries has a lot to do with identity. So would your higher self navigate their day the way that you navigated your day today? And I share this not in a way if you're like, girly girl, I don't know if my higher self would sleep until 11 and eat Cheeto Puffs. That's what I did today. I'm just kidding. I'm not saying that's what you did. But I'm not saying this from a guilt way that you need to feel bad about yourself. I'm just really asking you to audit your time. What is it going to? And is it the schedule of someone who is whatever identity you want to be, an entrepreneur, a winner, a spiritualist, whatever identity you want to align yourself to? Look at your schedule. Does that affirm that? And again, I shared with you, and I hope you're not in a space like that right now. It's just an example. Like when I was really at a low within my life, I didn't feel like someone who cared about their dental health and flossed every day. I didn't feel like a YouTuber who needed to show up for their content all of the time. I didn't feel like a winner. I didn't feel like any of that. But my habits reflected that, of who I so desperately wanted to be, even though I was in the depths and was not able to be that person. It's like my habits reflected that, and it eventually pulled me there. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a winner and all of that, but at least I am someone who genuinely aligns to the identity around I take really good care of myself. I prioritize my dental health, prioritize my mental health. I prioritize my meditation. I prioritize my skincare because I'm a worthy individual and I will get what it is that I desire. And I desire to continue to embody my higher self. And so this Aries solar eclipse could be really looking at your routines and being open to shifting them. I mean, the retrogrades, maybe you're going back to an old routine. You used to bodybuild, you're reconnecting with it now. You used to eat vegan, you're reconnecting with it now. Absolutely. But even small things, how you get out of bed in the morning, so much of how we show up day to day is automatic. It happens without us even being conscious of it. And I see some of you could be like breaking certain patterns, breaking loops. I would deeply encourage the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. This is a great resource, or even, Atomic Habits, everybody talks about as well. Like really wanting to be active and assertive over your schedule. Because a lot of you may find that you feel rather passive over it around, yeah, I want to write this novel, but I just never have time. Or I want to be healthy, but I just never have time. I never have time. See how that's a little bit more passive, makes us a little bit more reactive. See where it is that you can make time, or even just taking responsibility over your days and over your hours and what you want to give your time and energy towards and what you don't. I also want to note that 6th house does deal with our employees. So some of you could be advocating for something that relates to them. This also has to do with our coworkers. So some of you could be standing up for yourself there. It also has to deal with our small animals. Maybe you're sticking up for your small animals. You're sticking up for some sort of vet bill that felt not right, or sticking up for certain rules around your apartment building that is not fair to your fur babies. There could be something like that alive. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within the 7th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Libra rising. You may potentially just have 9 degrees Aries in the 7th house. But either way, there is a major focus on relationships, partnerships, contracts, business partners, this eclipse. And while this is a sector of the chart that governs other people, there's a focus during the solar eclipse around how it is that you advocate for you within your relationships, connections to other people. If you are not true to yourself, you cannot possibly be true to another. If you are dishonest with yourself, you cannot possibly be honest to another. What is happening within you is going to affect the relationships around you. And so there is a need during this time to be very honest, to be very authentic with who it is that you are and how it is that you interact with others. A lot of you are Libra rising, so you're very good at working with others, harmonizing with others, collaborating with others. Not all of you, but so much so that at times you can lose yourself because you can feel naturally what people want you to be or what would be the most charismatic or the most appealing to them. And sometimes you just conform to that said expectation or that even unsaid expectation. And so much so that you can leave certain interactions and be like, who was that? Like, I just completely met that person on their level and became their ideal, which in turn made sure that I was liked and valued and accepted. But it left me wondering, did I even have fun? Did I enjoy myself? Or did I just play the role of what that person wanted me to be? And I think a lot of you are really prioritizing the connections where you could be authentically raw and yourself, observing the connections where you feel exhausted when you leave because you felt like you had to perform, you felt like you had to acquiesce, you felt like you had to appease. And again, sometimes this happens naturally. Like, you know, when individuals are very charismatic or very persuasive, they meet people at their own energy, and it can be a tool, truly. I'm not talking down to it. But if you observe regularly that you leave interactions and you feel drained, you leave dates and you're like, well, I know that they fell in love with me, but I don't know if I had fun. This is an eclipse to really step into your authenticity and to know that the more that you do that, the more you attract the right people to you. Maybe you won't leave every single interaction being adored and accepted, but you will prioritize the quality of connections where you don't feel like you have to perform. You don't feel exhausted after spending time with them. And beyond just your overall interactions with others, which absolutely could be a focus with this eclipse, if you're in a relationship, there can be certain conflict that is alive at this time. Maybe even conflict over issues that have been stewing or from the past, with Venus having been retrograde here, Mercury having been retrograde here. And it's important not to see conflict as corrosive to the connection itself. Sometimes if we are someone who is more peace-seeking and more collaborative and more harmonious in nature, which many of you are if you are Libra rising, sometimes we see conflict as the enemy and something to be avoided at all costs. And that leads us to hold on to what has been brewing within us because we don't want to bring it up, we don't want to disrupt the peace. Conflict is actually a sign of a healthy relationship. It's how we navigate it. It can be toxic, absolutely, but it's how you deal with disagreements or disrespect that happens by how it is that we come together. And it's important to validate yourself, even if what you feel is raw or messy or doesn't make sense to you. Like, it's important to validate yourself, because if you invalidate yourself around, you're so dramatic, let that go, wasn't a big deal, sometimes those things can layer and stack, and sometimes you will feel resentful in your connection because there's so much that you have not said or had not advocated for. And of course, it's important to pick your battles. Like, within connection, there's going to be lots of things that are annoying. Like, we don't need to fight about everything. But this could be a time where you are being asked to really step into your power around you are worthy of being respected within your relationship. You are worthy of having your needs met. And to have your needs met, you have to validate your own needs. And I just feel like some of you might have been brushing certain things under the rug, or just trying to acquiesce, or just trying to be what was necessary for you to be. Acknowledge the ways that you just are. Outside of the role that you feel like you need to play for other people, acknowledge who it is that you are and the needs that you authentically have. Like, Aries is that very kind of raw side of ourselves. Sometimes it can even bring up survival tendencies. So if you have a tendency to fawn, if you have a tendency to freeze, if you have a tendency to flight, fight, like all of those responses could come up at this time for you to really acknowledge what you are really looking for within this connection, and acknowledging and validating the ways that maybe you've responded in the past, but really seeing, how can I approach conflict in a healthier way? How can I navigate uncomfortable situations with others in a more helpful way that is aligned with my own healing? And if some of you have been doing this work, you can find that your relationship is deeper because you've been so honest, you've been so authentic, you've been validating yourself. Some of you could be going through some sort of identity shift within your relationship. You were a fiance, now you're a wife, right? You were a boyfriend, now you're a father. Like, you could be going through some sort of like identity shift at this time, stepping into a new identity that may be related to how you are connected to others in some way. That could also show up within business partnerships. You know, some of you could be advocating around, you know, our split is not fair. At business, I'm doing most of the work and you're getting most of the money, or something like this. You could be wanting to be on your own, wanting to part ways with a business partner where it no longer feels to be in alignment. If you are single at this time, this Aries solar eclipse in the 7th house coincides with Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, both of which who were in your 7th house. So this could be a time of you healing from the past, reviewing the past as it relates to your one-to-one connections, reviewing what you want, who makes you feel the most you, where you feel the most alive, where you don't feel like you have to perform. And you could be contemplating past experiences for the data, good and bad, you know, red flags that you want to avoid moving forward, as well as, you know, maybe some situations it wasn't the right time of our life. Oh, my high school boyfriend, definitely not meant to be, definitely not who I want to reconnect with at this time. But gosh, looking back on that, I love how much my eccentricities and my authenticity was supported in that relationship. Like that felt really good. That's something that I want to continue to look for moving forward. And a lot of you could potentially hear from someone from the past, and the purpose is never about the person themselves. You could dream of someone from the past. You could run into someone from the past. It's not about them, it's about you. Especially with this Aries solar eclipse, it's about you. So if you do hear from that high school ex, it's not about you running back to your hometown and jumping back into the connection, but reviewing around, I didn't like these aspects of my relationship with this person. I did like these aspects. Who was I in that connection? And is that a version of myself that I want to pull with me into future connections? If you're dreaming of someone, contemplating, are there still parts of this connection that I'm healing from? Are there still parts of this connection that I've woven into how it is that I see myself? You know, some of you could have had partners within the past who really damaged your self-concept, how it is that you saw yourself. So seeing yourself as a loser because your college boyfriend said that you were, or seeing yourself as inadequate because your girlfriend in your 30s said that. Like, really reviewing how you've seen yourself through the eyes and through the lens of another. Because as I stated within the earlier collective forecast, which I deeply recommend that you listen to because a lot of nuance there, but this eclipse coincides with Mercury's alignment to Neptune, and Neptune is a smokescreen. You know, we could have been told that we were inadequate, and that could have just been a projection of someone else feeling inadequate. Or we could have been told that we were a loser, and that was just a projection of this person's insecurity and wanting to chip away and erode our self-esteem so we would not leave this person. Like, a lot of things that we're holding on to are not factual, firstly, and secondly, say more about the person who said it rather than you, the receiver. So being very intentional around how you weave these things around, this is all that I deserve, or this is all that I'm good for. So then we look for that within our mates or within our search for a mate. And sometimes we take that, which is not ours to internalize, we take that and we take it with us on our search for a mate. If we've been told by past partners, you're so high maintenance, no one's ever going to put up with you. We might walk into certain dates being like, I'm so high maintenance, how is this person ever going to put up with me? It's like, that's not true. That was via this person's perception. This eclipse story is interesting for you because it's stepping into what is real and true within your connections to others, which truly only you can decide that for yourself. You know, this eclipse story is fascinating because it's stepping into who it is that you are as you interact with others, and a new beginning to interact with others in a way that is authentic, that is true, that is real to who it is that you are and how it is that you show up, and releasing the ways that you've been cast to be, or the roles that you've been cast to play in that are not true to you. And really being intentional if there are people from the past who are like living in your hint rent-free, particularly in how it is that you see yourself. Some of you actively could be, you know, dating. Some of you could deal with some sort of breakup, or you have dealt with some sort of breakup. Some of you, I see the journey is more so you're actually decentering. You're decentering romantic relationships within your world. You're really wanting to step into your trueness, knowing that the more that you step into your trueness, the more you call upon people who are a fit for you. But some of you could be like reclaiming your time and energy around, gosh, I've leaked out so much of me and my life force energy trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be. Can I just be myself now? Like, I see that's the story that's playing out for some of you. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within the 8th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Virgo rising. You potentially may not be a Virgo rising. You may just have 9 degrees Aries in the 8th house. But either way, this is a very deep, intense house and thus life arena that is being stirred up and activated for you all. As I've been speaking about within this video, Aries is a very urgent sign, and 8th house, amongst other things, much of which we will detail here, but 8th house is the house of death. And it's not that you're dying, it's not that anyone's dying, but I see that there is this energy of taking agency over your life before it is too late. You know, we don't have the time that we think that we do. And a lot of times we wait and we wait and we delay. After this, then I'll do this. After this, after the kids are old enough, after I'm more successful in business, after this, letting the time tick by, time that we really do not have. And for a lot of you, there just could be this awareness around, this is my time, this is my life. And when it's time to go, it's going to be my time to go. I need to assert myself to get to the results that I want within my life, within this precious one life that I have here on planet Earth. And sometimes this is stirred up because we're going through some sort of transformational experience, like to a metaphoric sense. 8th house could be considered as this. Some of you could be navigating with grief, or you could have suffered a loss, yes, recently, or you are dealing with early grief, like grieving people who are still here, but you are just like really seeing clearly that that will not be a reality within the near future. And while this is devastating, and it's so important to hold space for yourself and to allow yourself to feel and to grieve in very like raw, messy ways. Okay, I want to tell you that because a lot of you are Virgo rising, so there could be this energy and always got to be put together, always got to be perfect. And this is a time to ugly cry if you need to ugly cry and be messy, okay? That's the energy of Aries. Be authentic, be you. You don't need your healing to show up in a pretty package, okay? Allow it. Like, life is cruel and mean and harsh sometimes, and release yourself from feeling like you need to have it all together or be perfect or process it perfectly if you are in the space of enormous transformation. And that is the case for a lot of you. And on that note, I do want to highlight that Aries is a very independent sign, yet 8th house is the support that we receive from others. And so I see that some of you are actually being guided to assert yourself around receiving support from others. I am a Virgo rising, if you are also a Virgo rising, and there's an element of being a Virgo rising where it's very independent, right? Very self-sufficient. Like, to me, it is embarrassing to ask for help. And I'm not like projecting that on anyone else. I'm just saying, for me personally, I would get so embarrassed if I dared ask someone else a question that I could have researched myself. Like, to me, and I think to a lot of Virgo risings, it's kind of like woven into our chart to have this energy around, I've got all the answers, right? And to me, it was like, I saw it as not in anybody else's lives or ways, but like in my own world, I saw it as a failure to like ask for help. And I thought it was the most important thing to always be independent, which this Aries solar eclipse is celebrating that. Like, appreciate that about yourself. But sometimes when life is messy and hard and dark, it's important to reach out for help. It's important to reach out for support. We don't get a medal for suffering and doing it all on our own at the end of our life. Like, for me, if you watch Magic Monday, you know I went through something really trying and it brought me to my knees. And my typical modes of healing and navigating weren't working anymore. Like normally I just deal with things on my own. I have my systems, I have my ways, and fundamentally I was desperate. Like I was in a place where it was so bad that I was desperate for something that would help me or something that would heal me. And so finally I allowed myself to receive support. Like finally I sought out healers and practitioners who could support me, which is not necessarily related to the 8th house, but there just could be an energy around being open to ask for support. Like even being open to ask for a loan, being open to ask for a grant, being open to ask for investment within your idea. Like there could just be an energy around recognizing just because I can do it on my own doesn't mean I need to. And that was the case for me, where I finally let down this like self-imposed mask that I needed to like have all the answers and not reach out for support. And it deepened my life so deeply, like allowing myself to receive and initiating the circumstances for that. Because I like initiated, this is just my experience, but I initiated starting to go to therapy. I initiated starting to go to like Reiki practitioners. I initiated receiving support, which was not a comfortable energy for me at all. At all, not comfortable for me to receive. I had to be courageous to allow myself to receive. And I think I wouldn't have gotten to that space had my life circumstances not brought me there, which, you know, I do want to just state, a lot of you who are Virgo risings, you have South Node in the 1st house. So you are going through this transformation of self. The ways that you used to be may not be how you are now. And there's an energy to get to know how you are now. Like you are in this time of immense transformation. So it's like maybe in the past seasons of my life, this worked for me, and maybe there's something different coming alive at this point in time. How can I initiate the circumstances of how I can receive support in this chapter of my life? And so with the 8th house, it does govern our spouse's income and shared resources. And some of you could be initiating certain conversations, certain dialogue with this solar eclipse, making a loose conjunction to Mercury around where is our money going? Where should it go? Maybe there's certain things that you feel your shared resources, whether that's within your marriage or a business partnership, you feel like there's certain things that money should be more allocated towards, where it's not allocated towards that. The Aries solar eclipse could be nudging for you to advocate for that, or even advocate for yourself and working with a financial advisor or with an accountant or something like this could also be alive. You could be guided at this time to advocate for yourself around your debt, or to start a new chapter and a more empowering chapter around your debt. And I'm going to speak to firstly financial debt, and then we'll get into like emotional debt because that also could be alive at this time. So financial debt. With the energy of Aries, it's really striving wherever possible to take an empowering lens to it, because debt itself, it can be so crushing, it can be so dehumanizing, honestly. It could just feel overwhelming. And the energy of Aries is, what's one thing that I can do that can make myself feel more powerful? Whether that's getting on a plan that helps you out of this, whether it's really like taking agency or taking responsibility for it. There could be an energy around being proactive around it, especially if you have certain responses where you typically freeze or ignore. There could be an energy around, how can I like face the messy truth of it in order to take steps forward, in order to initiate a new chapter around this. And on the financial note, some of you could be initiating circumstances in order to improve your investments, improve passive income, ways that you receive money without you physically putting in like the time and labor, getting paid an hourly wage. That's more 2nd house. 8th house is just ways that money finds you. And some of you could be initiating certain circumstances, refinancing, coming out with certain products that are passive income or that you may receive more money on the back end from, in order to get into that receiving mode. There really is an energy around getting into that receiving mode and recognizing that it could be quite courageous, honestly, to be in a receiving mode. I know for a lot of people, they would be like, wait, I love to receive. Feels good to receive. But the energy of Aries here implies that there is an element where this is outside of your comfort zone. It feels uncomfortable to have your spouse support you. It feels uncomfortable to have a grant supporting your LLC. It feels uncomfortable to prioritize more passive income rather than active income within your business. There could be an element of that alive here. And like I stated, 8th house can also represent where we feel indebted. It's kind of like merged energy. And I see that some of you are being more proactive. You are taking more agency as it relates to the energy that you share and merge with others, really defining this is mine and this is not mine. 8th house energy can get so murky, right? Sometimes we can internalize other people's expectations of us and what they want for us, and we can make it into our own. And the energy of Aries solar eclipse is kind of returning that energy back to center around, these are my desires and these are your desires. This is what I am responsible to. This is debt that I'm holding on to that's not mine to carry. And 8th house can be said to deal with themes such as intimacy, and that could show up in a physical way, absolutely. You asserting yourself in order to have those intimate experiences that you desire, of course, with consent and all of that. But there also could be an energy around like emotional intimacy. Aries is very authentic, it's very raw. And especially if you're a Virgo rising, there could be this energy where you need to be perfect all of the time and put your messy sides into the shadow. Some of you could be doing shadow work, or some of you could just be allowing someone close to you to see those messy bits within you, to see you within those raw experiences and those raw dimensions of who it is that you are. 8th house is the hidden occult house. So some of you could even be getting more into occult matters. You could be getting more into the secrets of the universe, or more into the secrets of your own soul, honestly. If the Aries solar eclipse on March 29th, 2025 lands within the 9th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Leo rising. You potentially may just have 9 degrees Aries in the 9th house. Either way, the emphasis for you this eclipse, and for most of you during the North Node Aries story overall, is about travel, higher learning, academia. Let's get into this. Because you might be like, Haley, come, I'm not traveling around this eclipse. How is this showing up for me? Beyond just physically traveling, which yes, 9th house governs, it's really the sector around how it is that we expand our worldview, which of course, travel is a vehicle to do that. Higher learning, academia, a vehicle to do that. But it's overall our sense of faith, our religion, our spirituality. And with the Aries solar eclipse, it's really stepping into the rawness and the trueness of who it is that you are, and also how it is that you see the world. Some of you could be unlearning or reviewing your own religious beliefs and questioning which are truly yours and which have been programmed into you, and wanting to build a worldview, a faith, a religious practice, whatever that is, but that feels true to you. Some of you may have even felt like you grew up in a very religious household that could have woven some stories about you into you and how you see yourself. So feeling like you're bad, you're not pure, you're evil, you're sinful, you're lustful, things such as this. Really reviewing, especially with Mercury and Venus retrograde impacting the sector, reviewing if that has been detrimental to your overall identity, how it is that you would identify yourself. You know, I am a sinner, I am bad. As we stated within the collective portion, the words that we define ourselves as, the identities, the labels that we give ourselves, have power over us. And I think the energy of Aries is really breaking through labels. Like, you don't even need to label yourself around, I am a Buddhist, I am a Christian, what have you. There's just a desire to really build a worldview or support it for you. And maybe there's elements where it's like, okay, there's elements of the Bible that I resonate with, there's elements that I don't. Again, I know that's controversial, but the energy of Aries implies that it's your life, it's your soul. Like, you can believe what it is that you want to and whatever feels the truest to you. And that might be different than doctrine that could have been ingrained into you. Some of you, whether it's within astrology, whether it's within spirituality, with the energy of Aries, this could be associated with being a leader in some regard. Some of you could be really stepping into your leadership around this, maybe learning more around these themes to potentially be some sort of mentor or some sort of teacher of some regard. Or if you have had a diligent study, some of you could be feeling launched into sharing your wisdom or sharing your study in some regard. 9th house also deals with publishing. So some of you could even be wanting to publish something that's very authentic and true and real to your journey. Academia could be playing a role. Maybe there's an acknowledgement around recognizing where your university is suppressing your own authenticity. your own trueness, like the true person that you are. Like you could feel like your professors are trying to tell you what to think or how to view the world. And there could be this energy with this Aries solar eclipse around, this is my education. Again, I'm not saying you have to like fight against your professors or have conflict with them. I mean, that could be a theme that comes alive, certainly. But it's more so recognizing that you do have to be proactive in these environments. It's not about proactive in these environments. Yes, you are seeking wisdom from individuals who are highly educated, and you should take in a lot of what they share, but you have a mind, you have a soul, you have a path. Like, you don't need to outsource thinking or critical thinking or overall worldview to other people just because they are in a position of power. Like, recognize where it is that you can learn, but also recognize, even if you're working like a mentor or coach or something like this, you know, they can have a lot of things to share with you, but not everything they share will be 100% true to you in your journey, because that's your job. Like, Aries is really around taking agency and initiative over our work. And with the Aries solar eclipse, your work in building a worldview and building wisdom and building an academic experience that is true to you. I also just see a theme that could be coming up around this Aries solar eclipse. What would it look like to have faith in your journey? When we start anything, because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, it's around initiation and trying. When we begin anything, we do so with a sensation of optimism. We want it to work out. If we didn't at least feel like it could work out, we likely wouldn't try it at all, right? And certainly, you know, not everything that we take action on will succeed amazingly, but at least we are trying, at least we're initiating, at least we're putting things out there. And it's important for you to build a worldview of having faith in yourself. Because if you don't have faith in yourself, you will be so paralyzed around initiating new experiences or new circumstances within your life. You could be so terrified of making the wrong decision that you don't make a decision at all, that you stay frozen because you think, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? Aries is the courage to try, to begin again. You can always begin again. And to know that regardless of what decision that you make, it is the right decision. You know, they say you can't make the right or wrong decision because you just make a decision and you make it right. And the energy of Aries is trusting your judgment around what's right for you, what you believe, what you want to grow, where you want to travel. All of those ninth house themes. Trusting your gut, trusting your judgment, trusting your own authenticity even. Like, you could be so terrified around, what will other people say if I do this and it doesn't work out, or things like this. It's not their life. And ninth house brings in these spiritual themes. So it's also recognizing the more that you embrace your authenticity in the ways that you are, the more that these risks that can feel more scary don't feel as scary, because you trust your judgment. You trust the person that you are. You understand that you were designed to be the ways that you are with the desires that you have. And then you aren't as paralyzed around, I could do this, or I could do this, or this person thinks I should do this person thinks that I should do this. It's like, I know who it is that I am. I know what it is that I believe. So regardless, I can't lose. I'm either going to succeed and it's all going to work out, or I'm going to learn from the experience and pivot and see why the universe wanted me to go down that road. Like, I cannot lose. Because I'm me. If the Aries solar eclipse lands in the 10th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may be a Cancer rising. You may not be a Cancer rising. You may just have 9 degrees Aries in the 10th house. But either way, the sector of your chart that is being activated and enlivened with this solar eclipse is around career, public persona, reputation. So let's get into this. I firstly want to say that it takes a lot of courage to be disliked. It takes a lot of courage to be authentic, but that is the only path. That is the only path. It can't sustain itself if you are trying to be liked and validated and accepted by absolutely everybody. Maybe that works for a couple of years, but eventually it will collapse on itself because it cannot sustain itself. You cannot be liked and adored by everybody, and you will exhaust yourself trying. And maybe for some of you, because a lot of you are Cancer risings, you can keep yourself in your shell out of fear of being disliked or being judged or making people mad or whatever comes up. And my love, you, especially if you're a Cancer rising, Jupiter is going to cross into your first house coming up pretty shortly this year. Okay, we'll talk about it. Check it out on the channel. Make sure to subscribe. I do all signs forecasts for all of the big transits. But this is a time to be open to life and open to putting yourself out there. I'm going to put it that way. And to put yourself out there means opening yourself up to criticism and people not liking you. And that could be showing up within work, within career, within your leadership, but overall just how people perceive you from the outside looking in. You have to get okay with being disliked. You have to get okay with being disliked, because the more you kind of expose yourself to it, the less that it does affect you. I mean, every so often, yes, sometimes you'll receive a comment or you'll feel that someone doesn't like you and it might sit kind of weird with you, but you do get stronger. You know, it's a bit like going to the gym. You know, here on YouTube, my channel took a long time to grow. And I'm really grateful for that, honestly, because I think you do have to adjust to reading negative things about yourself, like constantly intaking that sort of data. To be on social media, it doesn't necessarily need to show up on social media. To be a boss, right? You have to get used to not every person that you're leading being 100% stoked with you all of the time, or all of your customers being 100% stoked with you. Like, there is elements around success and visibility where we have to get used to not everybody being a fan of us. And of course, that's to be expected, but there is an element where you get stronger through time. Like when I was first starting my channel, reading those comments, I was like, ouch, ouch. Like I was like, will I survive this? Can I keep going? And it's like, I'm glad that it was such a slow journey, because it was such a trickle. It would be like one mean comment one week and then one the next week. Like I was able to get used to it, where now it's like, it doesn't affect me as much because I've like worked my way up now that there's like more. And again, the majority of comments are so kind and so sweet. And I just want to say thank you for watching my channel. I'm not complaining. It's just part of putting yourself out there in any regard. Even if it's as small as this, it's like there is elements of people who will say all sorts of comments. I mean, I need to highlight that because this eclipse is by Mercury. Maybe there are certain comments that people have told you that have stayed with you. Things that customers have told you, or things that your bosses have told you that have stayed with you. Like for me, I remember someone told me, it looks like your face was cut off from someone else's body and put on your face. And I think just because it was so puzzling, I was like, huh? And then I got into this energy around, is this what everybody thinks of me? And there was an energy of being a little hesitant around wanting to put myself out there around like, am I just going to free people out because it looks like my face is not my own? I still don't know what that person meant by that. But there are certain things that people say to you, whether it's at work or, like I said, a boss, that sometimes stays with you. And there's really an energy with the solar eclipse around, do I want this to have real estate within my brain? Like within my brain, within this chair, within this house that I pay the mortgage on, like, do I want these sort of thoughts to be taking up real estate here? And ways of viewing myself. It's like, that is not what I want to give my time and energy towards. And sure, that comment stuck with me, and you might be dealing with certain comments with Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, like certain customers who said, yeah, I thought it was okay. Or a boss saying, yeah, you're just not leadership material. That keeps you from initiating the circumstances that you really desire. And again, if it comes to a customer perspective, if it wasn't for them, it'll be for other people. That boss is not all-knowing. That boss does not have the power to dictate who it is that you are and your own potential in this lifetime. You decide that. And even outside of bosses, father figures, authority figures, things that people have told you that you have internalized and maybe ricochet in your brain and keep you from taking a risk in work, trying something new, putting something out there. Being about to debut this launch that's going to change your business, but hesitating around, is everyone going to be scared of my face because it looks like somebody else's face is glued on mine, whatever that means? Or going to apply for a new job that could really shake up career and hesitating before you do because you think of that boss who told you would never amount to anything and be like, could I possibly? Am I not leadership material? These are the sort of thoughts that do not need to be taking up real estate within your brain. Especially if it's arguing for your comfort zone. Like, this is a time to be open to taking risks. Again, there's 2 retrogrades at this time, so this is not my endorsement to do all of the drastic things right now, but if you feel inspired and ignited to initiate certain circumstances within your working world, to change careers, to change jobs, to step into leadership, are you listening to the voice of your higher self who wants to challenge you and change you? Or are you listening to the voice of your haters and of your excuses that want to keep you safe by keeping you comfortable? Like, this is an Aries solar eclipse to be open to stepping into the limelight authentically, which may entail being disliked, being open to criticism, being open to judgment. But that is where we grow. You're being asked to have courage around what it is that you desire. And some of you, perhaps you're at a loss at this point in time. Like, Haley Comet, I don't know what I should be doing. Like, I feel like I have to perform at my job. I feel like I have to be someone that I'm not when I'm at work. I feel like I have to be someone that I'm not when I'm around a boss. The Aries solar eclipse would ask you, when do you feel the most like you? Just unfiltered, unapologetic you. And how can you step into a role or career path that would allow you to get paid to be yourself, or to build a business around being yourself? And again, it's not saying if our favorite thing is eating M&Ms on the couch and watching comedy, it's not saying we can necessarily get paid for that. Who knows? Maybe like being an M&M reviewer. Who knows? Maybe you could. But also just like contemplating, if it feels the most me to be in nature, how can I be, a park ranger? Or if it feels the most me to be able to do what I want when I want, like how can I step into a career path that will help me design my schedule? Like, take agency over where it is that you want to go, and rather than looking out in the world around what other people are doing, look within, especially with the retrogrades here. What makes me unique? Where do I feel the most authentically myself? What could I do where I could feel like I'm getting paid to exist or to just be myself? That exists. Like, I want you to believe that that can exist for you. But it might take courage. It might take initiative. It might take you putting yourself out of your comfort zone. Some of you may crave something new within your career. You're doing something, but you are inspired towards something else. Something else is igniting you and enlivening you. And it might scare you, because this is something that you might be taking a risk in. Maybe you're really good at what it is that you've built already, but there's this desire to initiate new circumstances. Your passion is taking you a new place. Your passion is not random. Your desires are not random. And when you are challenging yourself, you are alive. Like, if you feel like you could do your job in your sleep, you're not challenged, this might be a time to initiate some new circumstances, or to take a risk, or to allow your passion to guide you, whether it's pivoting something you're already doing or starting something new. Again, think it through with these retrogrades. You don't have to force it right now, but this eclipse could be nudging you within that direction. Some of you may need to stand up for yourself to a authority figure, to a boss, to a father figure, something like this. Or some of you could just be taking the reins around your reputation, around your public persona, around recognizing you cannot control what people say about you, but you can decide what it's going to mean to you about you. Take the constructive criticism if it's relevant, but do not allow it to keep you from showing up, trying, putting yourself out there. If the Aries solar eclipse on March 29th, 2025 lands within the 11th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Gemini rising. You potentially may just have 9 degrees Aries in the 11th house. Either way, this eclipse is about your friendships, your hopes and dreams, your colleagues. So let's get into this. I want to start by saying that your friends, your true friends, like your soul family, will never require you to be someone that you are not. Any relationship that requires you to put on an act, or to pretend to be someone that you are not, or to suppress your needs or your desires, that is not somebody that you legitimately want within your world. Like, it might be nice to have a certain group for certain friends and have certain comforts that come with having friends, but it will feel mentally and soulfully taxing to pretend to be someone that you are not. Any true friendship does not require you to be someone that you are not for it to sustain itself, to say yes when you mean no, to conform to how they want you to be, to constantly gas them up and make sure their ego is intact. That's not a friendship that you legitimately want. And this Aries solar eclipse could be nudging you in the direction around initiating circumstances that allow for true connection, deep connection, authentic connection, based on the human that you are. and not doing it backwards, not being like, this group needs me to be like this, so I'll be like this, being like, this is who I am. How can I find groups and people who align with who it is that I am? Some of you may, because we do have retrogrades in this sector of the chart around the same time, you may be reconnecting with friends from your past. But really, if you do reconnect or reminisce with friends from the past, ask yourself if they fit into your present and your future. Okay, really ask yourself that, because sometimes we reconnect with people from the past and we're just talking about past memories. You know, we spend the whole time just talking about our time with that person when we were 5. It's like, okay, what's that about? You know, walk down memory lane is nice every so often, but it's like, can we talk about what's real and alive within our journeys right now? Do I feel myself revert to how I was when I was 5 or when I was younger? Or am I able to hold the vibration of who it is that I am now and meet with you in that authentic way, where I don't feel like I have to perform and act out an older version of myself for us to keep that resonance alive? And adding to that, does this person align with where I'm going within my future? Because 11th house governs our future dreams, our hopes. And so this Aries solar eclipse could also be asking you to initiate not just the friendships that align with you now, but also support and affirm where it is that you're going. The people who inspire you to be your higher self, right? The people who encourage you and motivate you. It's not to say that everybody that you are friends with needs to be more successful than you or more actualized than you or happier than you or anything like this, but just ensuring that you are around people who celebrate who it is that you are now while also motivate you and encourage you to get to where it is that you're going. And it's not around comparing ourselves to others, but allowing yourself to be inspired. Like maybe you have certain friends where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so inspired by their meditation habits. I'm so inspired by their relationship. I'm so inspired by their career. And seeing that as a testament of who it is that you could be. You know, because sometimes Aries can bring up competitive energy. Your only competition is with yourself. So also, your only competition is with yourself. And if somebody, whether it's within your friendship group or your Instagram followers or anything like that, if someone has what it is that you desire, utilize that as a reflection around what it is that you could be. Like, rather than being bitter around how other people have what you desire, get better, right? Allow that as fuel. It's motivation to be your own personal best self. You're not in competition with these people. Use them as reflections and catalysts around what it is that you could have, who it is that you could be. And release your grip of feeling like you need to compete with other people. Again, you are your own biggest competition. And with the Aries solar eclipse in 11th house, understand that your future is in your own hands. Other people could be making certain decisions or doing certain things with their life that doesn't align with what it is that you want to do with your life. And that is completely okay. Everybody's future and destiny is in their own hands. And take agency and responsibility over what it is that you desire for your future, even if that differs from what other people desire from you or expect from you. Like, you might log into Instagram every day and just be inundated with people getting married and going on all these trips, and it might make you feel less than or activate this competitive energy, feeling like you need to do that in order to compete. But if you feel that line of thinking, you will fight so hard for a life that is not even meant to be yours. You will fight and claw to compete with other people around the wedding and the whatever people are doing, and then recognize this is not even what I desired. It's just what I thought it meant to win. Be very conscious how you define success and how you define winning. What's winning for you is living and designing a life that is true to you. That's what winning is. And there is a nudge. Take initiative as it relates to your ambitions, your desires, especially as it relates to your future that you want. Some of this may relate to career ambition, as North Node in Pisces is most likely transiting your 10th house, but also just what it is that you want for your future, what hopes and dreams that you have. They will require courage with the energy of Aries. They will require departing your comfort zone. And it also requires you to try and to let go of fear of judgment, to let go of fear of being perceived as cringe or something like this. And outside of your own personal future, it's also like the future of humanity. And the energy of Aries, empower yourself as a leader to bring about the circumstances that you want for humanity. I know sometimes we can feel so disempowered around how could I possibly bring about change for myself and for humanity altogether. But that line of thinking leads us towards inertia. Like even if it's small actions or advocating for something, standing up for something, those small actions can have ripple effects. And it takes the trailblazers. It takes the people who are able to rebel or advocate or fight for the future that you desire and the future that you desire for humanity at large. If the Aries solar eclipse lands within the 12th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Taurus rising. You potentially may not be a Taurus rising. You may just have 9 degrees tucked away in the 12th house. But either way, your eclipse story is this. So I say tucked away in the 12th house because the 12th house is the hidden house. The first house in astrology is the house of self. It's what's very visible and readily identifiable to other people. Whereas 12th house is what's beneath the surface. I always think of us standing on the ascendant looking out to the first house. It's what's very visible. Whereas 12th house is all of the stuff that is not in our immediate line of vision nor other people's, but it could deeply impact how it is that we view ourselves and view the world. It's things such as subconscious processing. It governs, amongst other things, subconscious processing. So again, what is happening beneath the surface that can impact the real world tangible effects that we see all around us, but we aren't aware of it. And maybe this Aries North Node story, if it's been here for a while, or this Aries eclipse, is nudging you to take agency around your subconscious processing, around what am I telling myself? What am I calling myself beneath the surface? Like, am I narrating my own experiences around you're such a loser, you're a flop, you're this, you're that? Like, what's happening beneath the surface? Let me peel back the layers here. Let me really uncover what is happening underneath, and let me really see where it is that I can initiate the sort of self-talk that's going to support me moving towards what it is that I desire. We can't take the good without the bad, and the energy of Aries is raw and messy. And as we peel back subconscious processing, especially with Chiron most likely transiting the sector as well, sometimes also wounds are activated or illuminated. And that can sometimes make us want to suppress or numb or run or put it into the shadowy crevices of our mind around, okay, not to go there. You know, it takes courage to heal. It takes courage to face yourself. It takes courage to do shadow work. It takes courage to do EMDR. It takes courage to do anything like this. It takes courage. This Aries solar eclipse, especially with the ruler of it being Mars squaring Chiron, is really asking us to redefine how it is that we view courage and being strong. Like, you can feel weak unpacking all of these themes, but it takes strength to go into those shadowy crevices and to come out the other side a victor, which you will. And that takes strength. Whether you're early in this journey or you've been in this journey, acknowledge how far you've come and acknowledge how much you have gotten to know yourself inside out. You know, to build our life, to build what it is that we desire, it's important to get to know ourselves deeply and intimately. Get to know your own energy, get to know your own desires, get to know who it is that you are when nobody else is watching. Get to know yourself. This Aries solar eclipse is nudging this, especially with the retrogrades coinciding with this eclipse. Get to know yourself. And really get dialed in with your energy. Get to know your energy. I know that sounds kind of strange, but meditate, like really feel what it feels like to inhabit this body and this spirit. Because the more that you get to know your own energetic vibration, like your own baseline, the more you'll be able to sense when your energy is being manipulated or infiltrated in any sort of way. When you really know yourself, your energy intimately, you feel when you're being taken out of it, right? You feel when someone's infiltrating your energy space or sending you the evil eye. Like, you feel it because you're so well versed in what it means to inhabit your own energetic space. You can feel things are manipulating it in some way, which can be very powerful. And again, this can show up in energetic spaces and not always in sinister ways. Like, sometimes, you know, someone misses us and they send a certain energy and we get hit by a wave of sadness. When you get to know what your own emotions feel like, how they resonate within your body, what your energy space feels like, and how when you get to know your own emotional space and your own energy, you really get to know your sads. And you'll be able to distinguish in subtle ways, is this my sad or is this someone else's sad? Sometimes if someone's nervous, like we haven't texted them back and they're nervous about receiving a response from us, we get really nervous and we're like, is this mine? It's helpful to figure out what is yours and what's not. And you don't learn that until you really get to know your energy, because that's when you'll feel that other people are throwing you energy or pulling on your energy in some regard. It also helps when we're around other people. Like I was speaking more so like subconsciously, but also when we're spending time with people. When we really get to know our energy, we can feel when we're being thrown off. We can feel when we're being inauthentic. Really observe when you go to spend time with people and you crave to be alone. Because of course, some people are introverts, right? I'm a 12th houser. I definitely need my alone time, but sometimes we need alone time because we are being pulled out of our own energetic baseline, or we feel drained, we feel like we have to perform or something like this. Really get to know yourself. Notice these nuances, notice these deviations within your own energy. To do that, you do have to conquer your fear of solitude. And some of you have been doing that work. Some of you are being launched forward to doing that work. Again, we're here to connect. You've had and you'll have many fulfilling partnerships and connections within your life. But there are some parts of our journey that we walk alone. And it's important not to fear that or to be scared of that. Because if we're so scared of walking on our own, we will stay in situations where we settle. Stay in situations where our energy feels drained, where we don't feel like ourselves because we're so scared about being with ourselves. Like this could be a time where you are being courageous over your fear of solitude in some regard. Some of you could be initiating circumstances to really trust yourself, trust your judgment, trust your instincts, trust your intuition, trust your dreams. 12th house is very mystical, it's very spiritual. Aries is our gut instinct. So some of you are really learning to trust yourself. You're not looking around you for validation or what to do. You're looking within you. And that's a powerful place to be in. But like I said, 12th house is shadowy, it could be scary. And there are elements of 12th house that brings up themes of self-sabotage. Some of you may impulsively self-sabotage when something good comes in. Your immediate response is to destroy it or something like this. Again, that's where the subconscious processing helps to really get to the root of where that comes from. But also just being mindful of where you are your own self-undoing, where you drink to your own detriment, where you numb to your own detriment, where you push others away to your own detriment. This Aries solar eclipse could be asking you to get real and honest with yourself and with your soul. So my loves, I would love to know, comment below, how has this transit been for you? Like overall, North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, what has it activated within you? Have you stepped into more of your authenticity? Have you stepped into your ability to advocate for yourself, to assert yourself? Have you let go of any codependency, people-pleasing tendencies represented by South Node Libra? What events transpired based on where the eclipses landed in for you? I would love to know as we wrap up this journey. And really just knowing that with this Aries solar eclipse, it's an ending and a beginning, right? We are wrapping up a journey where we have been asked to have courage, to fight for the circumstances that we want, to embrace the authentic person that we are. The work never stops, it just gets deeper. But I hope you can look back at these past 2 years and remind yourself that you're the one who kept going. You're the one who got you through it. You're the one with your unique destiny, your unique gifts given to you from the divine. And you're going to be the one who actualizes that for yourself. And it's sweet to know that you're the one who did that for yourself, chiseled that for yourself. Of course, with North Node and Pisces, backed by the divine. So if you are new to my cosmic corner of the internet, we would so love to have you join. I do all sorts of videos here on my channel. I do all sign forecasts for all of the major transits that we will experience. We have quite a few in 2025, so make sure to subscribe to stay updated on those. I also have a weekly horoscope series where we connect on the weekly astrology and how it is that you can co-create with it. It's called Magic Monday. That will be linked within the description below. If you'd like to connect with me off YouTube, my Instagram handle is @HaleyCommentAstrology. My TikTok is the same. I would so love to connect with you over there. I'm wishing you a blessed eclipse, and until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.